The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Jacksonville. Are we calling these UFC Jacksonville? Cody Saftic's here with me to break down this card coming off the heels of UFC 249. Are we calling these Jacksonville? Because, we're just in Jacksonville for the foreseeable future. I don't know which is which, but...
Yeah, exactly. They're all Jacksonville.
So, this one, obviously, main event is Anthony Smith versus Glover Teixeira. Shall we just get into it? Anthony Smith, minus 170. And Glover Teixeira could be had 4 plus 250. Take it away, Cody.
Yeah, well, jumping out right from Saturday's event, we're getting right back into the rhythm of things, Paul. So,
we'll
lots of
recap.
MMA coming out, everybody. And I'm
Sorry, we're having a little bit of delays issues between us, so if it sounds a little bit weird today, guys, just heads up on that. But what was I going to say? We'll do a little recap at the end there for the people. Look at the time codes for any of that. But let's get through the fights here.
Yeah, so rolling into another event in Jacksonville. I don't know if we're all calling them Jacksonville, but it's basically like UFC 1 quarantine Jacksonville, UFC 2 quarantine Jacksonville, which is what we got up now. And then we'll have to tackle the next one as they come. But starting off with the main event, I gave out no underdogs on last week's card, so let's start this one off with an underdog. I'm going to go with Glover Teixeira here over Anthony Smith. I know a lot of people who are probably fans of the show are saying, geez, Cody again picking against Anthony Smith. When is he going to learn his lesson that Smith just gets the job done? I'm honestly thinking that Smith is just a strong case of just a massive overachiever. I mean, largely, if you look at his entire career, we're not going to talk about his entire career here, but I mean, this is a guy that's lost 4 fights in a row. This guy's a guy that's lost against people you've never heard of. He's been knocked out 8 times. He's been submitted 4 times. I don't know how he's gotten as far as he has, but there's no denying he's on a great run here. So let's just start where that run starts, from him jumping to 205 pounds. So important to note that even though he is 6'4", he's not exactly the biggest 205er. He was a big 185 pounder. He was a massive middleweight. But as far as 205 goes, I feel like his power hasn't really translated over to 205 pounds. He's lengthy. He's rangy. He's a guy that's got good strikes, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's nothing that's going to hit you with that one-shot power that's going to hurt you and knock you out. And Glover, I mean, God, the guy keeps moving forward. You got to have to sting him. You got to have to keep him off. So let's go back to Anthony Smith jumping up to 205 pounds. He gets Rashad Evans. What a gift from the UFC. Rashad's on a 4-fight losing streak. He's lost to Dan Kelly. He's lost to Sam Alvey. He's not Rashad anymore. They give it to Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith runs with it. He gets Shogun, same treatment. He gets Volkan Oezdemir, guy they're not high up on. This is important here now, right? It's not just a quick knockout. He loses the first round to Volkan Oezdemir. He just gets outstruck. That's fair. Again, I'm not very high up on Anthony Smith on his striking. I don't think he's one of the better strikers in the division. He's an okay striker, but clearly he's going to give up that disadvantage to Volkan Oezdemir. He gets outstruck in round 1. Round 2 is key here. Round 2, he gets taken down by Volkan Oezdemir. Volkan's not known for his wrestling in the slightest bit. Volkan's definitely not known for his jiu-jitsu in the slightest bit, and yet he takes down Anthony, and he has his way with Anthony. Anthony has a problem with shell-up defense. He does it both stand-up and on the ground. When he's standing up, a lot of the time, if you just barrage this guy with punches, he just puts both of his hands up like phone booth, defends himself, obviously, but he just stays in one place. When he's on the ground a lot of the time, you'll see him get to his hands and knees, but it doesn't advance his position. It's a defensive shell, but it does you no favors in terms of guys taking advantage of that. He does that round 2 against Volkan. Round 3 against Volkan, Volkan's so gassed out that they're both gassed out, to be fair, but Volkan's just so gassed out that Smith ends up on top of him. He takes the back. He chokes out Volkan. It's a pretty win. It extends the winning streak to 3. But I see lots of holes there. The Jones fight, not even worth talking about. It's 5 rounds. Nothing happens. I don't even know how he got a title shot. On one hand, you could say, Jesus Christ, he just won 25 minutes against the GOAT, one of the greatest of all time. But that's not the feather in the cap. You got to beat Jones. He'll go 5 rounds with anybody, it seems like. You got to at least do something. And nothing was done there. So we go to the Gustafsson fight. The Gustafsson fight's another case of, it's that aging legend. I throw him in the same category as Rashad Evans and Shogun. I mean, Gustafsson retires after the fight. But you look at that fight, and that's not the Mauler. That's not Alexander Gustafsson. The first 2 rounds he takes off. And then the third round, very key here, Paul. Alex Gustafsson decides, you know what, I'm going to try to take this guy down. And he does take him down. And he has his way with him. And then in the fourth round, whether he's tired, whether he throws, decides he's going to retire, but Smith capitalizes that one opportunity and gets the job done. So I'm not saying he's a lucky fighter. He's a skilled fighter. He's a guy that stays in the fight long enough. He's a guy that's got to stretch you. He's a slow starter. He's going to give up the first 2 rounds, and then he's going to try to capitalize as you wear down. If this is a 3-round fight, I got Glover all day, but it's a 5-round fight. So I have to acknowledge the fact that, geez, you know what? His biggest weapon here coming in against Glover Teixeira is that he's 9 years younger than Glover. He's 31 years old versus a 40-year-old Glover Teixeira. He's faster than Glover. He's more mobile. He's got a better kick game than Glover. But that pressure is just going to wilt him down. I think Glover's got the advantage everywhere. I do think low-key, he is a better striker. He's got bigger power. You look at his last couple fights, and it's a washed version of Glover. Doesn't look that bad. He stood in there with Krylov, another guy that was like 11 years younger than him, and he banged with him. Young Kudalaba, who wants to stand and bang with Kudalaba? He gets hit, but he exchanges with him. Carl Roberson, great kickboxer. Carl Roberson almost has him KO'd with those Travis Brown elbows to the head. Remember that? And then he just gets on top of him and submits him. The guy's resilient, Paul. He's old, but he's resilient. He's a little tank engine that just keeps going. And he's on a 3-fight winning streak right now, and his best days are behind him. But he's got more than enough to beat journeyman gatekeepers. And even though Anthony Smith appears to be an upper echelon light heavyweight, a top 5 guy, he's got some cool little ranking next to his name. He's a journeyman gatekeeper. And Glover's going to take advantage. I think Glover bops him up on the feet, takes him down at some point, and I'm hoping he finishes, because I do admit, if this goes 4-5, Glover is 40 years old. Glover did look a little tired against Krylov. Not overly tired, but that was a split decision. It was a close fight. I'd like to see him take out Smith inside the distance. And the good thing there with Smith is that when Smith loses, it's typically inside the distance. Like, it's so shocking that he went the distance with Jones, because it's like Thiago Santos finished him, which is, fairly obvious. But Josh Neer finished him. Antonio Braganito finished him. Roger Gracie finished him. Adlan Amagov finished him. Jesse Forbes finished him. Jake Heck finished him. They all finished him, right?
Yep.
So Glover's going to have to try to finish him so that it doesn't extend out and he gives Smith that chance to fight his way back into it, because that's what Smith's been typically doing. But because giving it a good little price tag here, I mean, I look at Glover and I see plus 155 in on that. I could not back Anthony Smith at a price tag 175 against almost anybody in the division, let alone Glover, who I think, again, low-key people sleeping on him. That could be good for business, man. This guy's got all the skills in the world. If he does get on top, his jiu-jitsu black belt is going to carry him easy. I do see pass for him. What are you thinking on this one?
I mean, Cody, you didn't really leave any meat left for me to say here. Basically, in the last 6 minutes, what I did is I was waiting for those words to come out of your mouth, Cody. I wanted to bet Glover. I was just like, I don't understand this line. Glover's been good to me in the past. Historically, I just seem to know Glover's abilities. I've always been on the right side of his wins and losses. I've been on him throughout this most recent stretch where he's been fighting more untested guys like Krylov, Kutalaba, and Roberson. But, up-and-comers, and they're trying to take Glover's spot, and he's been able to hold his own and maintain. He's old, but, the skills are all there. Anthony Smith's pretty easy to take down. I think his grappling's good enough for the most part, maybe to keep himself out of big trouble, but Glover's got such a good head and arm choke that I think he can latch that on to anybody. If it's early, he gets them down, they're not all that sweaty, he can get the submission there. I do worry the same way as you that we get to rounds 4 and 5. I know Smith he may look tired, but he's not going to stop coming at you. But yeah, in the while you were talking, I made sure to place my wager on Glover Teixeira. I just needed the seal of approval. You know how these things are. I just needed the seal of approval. Let's move on to the next fight on the card here. We've got Ovan St. Preux taking on Big Ben Rothwell. Heavyweight fight. Ovan St. Preux moving up here. Ovan St. Preux minus 140. Ben Rothwell plus 120. Not going to lie, man. There's a lot of weird fights on this card because you have guys that are, it's quarantine. People are eating comfort food. I don't know if they really want to cut weight.
Times.
Yeah, so you have a bunch of people moving up weight classes and stuff like that. I kind of like OSP's chances. They're basically the same height. He's got the same reach. Obviously, he's going to be giving up 30 to 40 pounds. Maybe 30 is on the low end, but Ben Rothwell's just so fucking slow at this point. Hit him to the body. Just be faster, more athletic, and I think OSP can win this fight here. Big Ben Rothwell's got obviously a big size advantage, but I just think the speed is going to kill in this fight, in my opinion. What about you?
Okay, so I was thinking along the same lines. Again, I haven't had a ton of. I've looked at this fight enough. Like, I'm confident in this pick, but it's been like 2 days that I've been able to like physically look at these fights, have a good line, and figure out what I'm looking at because there's so many cards lined up next to each other. But again, when the fight was announced, I didn't have a ton of time to delve into it. I was thinking the same thing as you. Geez, you know what? OSP wouldn't be a small heavyweight by no stretch. Like, he's so thick and muscular at 205, and he already stands at 6'2", 6'3". He's going to be able to transition over and just not cut weight, not cut that 20 pounds, maybe put on 10 pounds of muscle and come in like a Rumble Johnson 235 if he wanted to. Well, then I don't think he's going to be out of place. He's way faster than Ben Rothwell. Pretty much everybody's faster than Ben Rothwell. But any light heavyweight that's going to be coming up is going to have that advantage. Rothwell was initially supposed to take on Jean Vellante, who is also a light heavyweight, jumping up to 205 pounds. So in some ways, maybe he's been getting ready for that. But that's irrelevant. We won't even talk about that. The thing is that Jean was going to have that advantage. He's going to be much faster than him. OSP is going to be much faster than him. That's fine. But upon looking at it, even if OSP is much faster than him, what's going to do for him, right? He doesn't throw a ton of punches to begin with. His punches aren't going to knock out Ben Rothwell, who, if anything, has a cast iron chin still. Yeah, maybe he's a lot slower than he used to be. Maybe his power is not as good as it used to be. Maybe his strikes, he doesn't throw as much volume as he used to, but it's like the guy can take a licking. So OSP would have to remain on his bicycle for 3 rounds, backpedal and strike. He seems to have cardio issues, and one would assume him going up to heavyweight is going to help that. He doesn't have to cut out weight anymore. He was a big guy. He probably struggled to make weight, to be honest with you. Okay, that should help him. He should have more gas in the tank. If that's the version of him that comes out here, then yeah, maybe he's able to stay on his bicycle and he's able to outstrike them. But let's look at just strictly the numbers from OSP over the last little bit, right? His last fight against Michael Omalanchuk, he gets smoked in the first round. I mean, he takes a bad, brutal beating. In the second round, he takes down the inexperienced non-grappler and he hits him with Devon Preux. Prior to that, against Nikita Krylov, he landed 4 strikes that entire fight. He got smoked in the first round. He didn't throw anything. In the second round, he gets taken down. He gets submitted. The fight before that against Dominic Reyes, he got outstruck 94-38, and he almost got knocked out. He got knocked out with 5 minutes in the third round. The buzzer rang, and he's on the floor. If that's
no shame in losing to Reyes, but.
No shame at all. But it's just important to note that he did basically get tripled up on the striking in that fight, right? The Tyson Pedro fight, that's a joke. What does Pedro do well? Nothing. The fight before that is Ilir Latifi. Latifi drops him and then submits him. So that's his last 5 fights. In his last 5 fights, now, even if you just look at his career numbers, 23 strikes landed against Corey Anderson, 21 against Rogerio de Lima. Not a single strike landed against Okami. He just took him down and submitted him. The best he's ever landed was 76 strikes against Volkan Oezdemir. That's the most he's landed. Mind you, he lost that fight. It was a minus 350 favorite over a debuting Volkan Oezdemir, who took the fight on short notice. So 76, let's say that's his high watermark, right? Well, surely he's going to go and out-punch a heavyweight. No, not necessarily. Yeah. Rothwell throws numbers like that all the time. He landed 70 against Andrei Arlovski. He landed 70 against Blagoy Ivanov. He landed 77 against Junior Dos Santos. So to be honest with you, with OSP is that he's dropped guys before, guys that were smaller than him, guys that were chinny, guys that were aging veterans, guys like Shogun Rua. You have a perception that maybe he's a big power puncher, but he's not. And I think he relies on it a little too much. So without him going out there and just cleanly being on his bicycle for 3 rounds and out punching Ben Rothwell, he's never really shown an ability to do that in his career. Yeah. What he does do is he has a good first round. He'll kick a lot in the first round. But as soon as Rothwell pressures him and they are forced to clinch up, he's going to get very tired wrestling around with a man who weighs 265 pounds. His arms will start to gas. He'll start to fatigue. And I feel like that'll be his undoing. I'm going to take Rothwell here with dog money, plus 120. I mean, again, it is dog money. It's not great dog money. But I feel like after the PED suspension, he has not looked the same. He's 1-2 in the UFC. He looked terrible against Stefan Struve. But there's still enough there to pull it around. And in the Stefan Struve fight, it's important to note, once he loses the point, he realizes, I'm going to lose this fight. I lost the first round.
Yeah.
I'm losing the second round, I just lost a point.
Yeah, I was on him there, and I was just like, what are you doing? Like, just go after it. Like, this is the way to beat Struve is to, like, bum rush him. Like, go after him. Like, absolutely try to kill him. Like, the chin is the weakness. That's what you do.
You have to go after this guy, exactly what you're saying. And he just sits back, and he kind of sat back a little too much against Blagoy as well. Like, he's moving forward, but he's just not engaging enough.
Yep.
So I got him bet too. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's killing me. Like, he's done. What's he doing? But as soon as he loses the point, he's just like, fuck it. He walks in and he knocks him out. The key in that is, though, in the post-fight interview where he's like, geez, you know what? That's really all I had to do. All I had to do is just walk forward and throw punches. I'm going to fight my next fight like I'm down a point, because it was like that's a mental thing. It's a mental hurdle, and he just got over it because he just lost his last two fights. He was coming off a long suspension. He hasn't won in years. He hasn't looked good in years. He hasn't knocked out a man in years. He goes out there and he lets his hands go for one moment, and he KOs a guy. Oh, that's what I get. That's what I do. I'm a fighter. That's what I do. He pressures OSP. I think he's got a shot. So anyways, I'm going to take that dog up plus 120. Mm-hmm. Little punt sprinkle for the fans, okay? Punt sprinkle here for the fans.
I don't know.
Ben Rothwell by submission, 11-1.
Okay, 11-1?
Yeah.
Okay, that's more up my alley. I think I'm going to probably we'll see what they look at the weigh-ins, but it's probably a stay away from me. I got lots of other dogs on this card as we go through that I'm interested in, so I don't know if I have to be on every single spot, but we'll see as the week plays out. But I understand everywhere where your head's at. It's a really weird fight. Next one up, we've got a lightweight fight between Drew Dober and Alexander Hernandez. Dober minus 120, Hernandez plus 100. This is the fight that when I look around our DFS and MMA gambling Twitter scene, this is the one that people seem to be the most confident about, but on both sides. You have people going all in on Alexander Hernandez. You have people pumping the tires of Dober. Dober is a guy whose career has really seemed to turn around. This is the best we've ever seen from him, and he just keeps getting better and better, just stacking up wins now. Hernandez was a guy with a lot of promise. Some of that shine may have worn off when Cowboy kind of exposed him, but I've seen some interviews with him. He's back, he's back in the gym. He never really stopped, and he seems to be getting after it. It's a really, really interesting fight. It's a close to a pick 'em. Honestly, I don't really have a strong take on it yet. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know how you can have a strong take either side. Like you're saying, people are definitely going all in on Dober. I haven't seen as many people going all in on Hernandez, but I see where the love for Dober is. I'm actually surprised he's not a slightly bigger favorite. It really comes down to which guy's going to employ his game plan better. If Hernandez goes in with a boring game plan, because that's what he's going to require here, he needs to just pin Dober against the cage and try to get him down if he can. But even if he can't get him down, he needs to have him up against the cage. Mm-hmm. If he goes in with the game plan of stand in front of him, bob in and out of the pocket, and try to strike, which is kind of what he's been doing, it's not going to be a good night. I'm not saying Dober's going to knock him out clean like he's been doing to guys, but he's going to get hit with shots, and then it's going to make him reconsider. And like we've seen in other fights from him, I think the Cerrone fight may have changed him mentally a tad bit. He was so young, he was so brash, he was so cocky, he clearly never got his ass handed to him. And when Cerrone did that to him, he comes in against Trinaldo his next time out, and he's not that same guy. Talked some good games still, but he just didn't seem all the same. I would have to go with Drew Dober. I would have to go with Drew Dober just on the recency bias of Alexander Hernandez looked like, is he a flash in the pan for us, Paul? He comes into the UFC, nobody gives him a chance against Beneil Darius. Mm-hmm. Nobody gives him a chance against Beneil Darius, right? Bang, true. 42 seconds, got the KO. Then he beats Olivier Aubé-Mercier, who is now released from the UFC. It was a relatively close fight, although he 100% won and gave a good account of himself. Then he gets the Cerrone fight. That goes to show you how the UFC is pushing this guy along. He's 2 fights into his UFC career. He's 10 fights into his pro career. And he gets a fight against Donald Cerrone, a big spot. Doesn't live up to it, gets KO'd. Now coming in against Francisco Trinaldo his next time out, he landed 25 significant strikes. Rewatch that fight back, he's pulling all of his punches. He comes in on a lot of like linear motions. He doesn't have great footwork. He bobs in and out. He's very athletic. He's fast. But everything he does, he comes in straight on the same line. So in the Dariush fight, it ended very quick. The Obe-Mercier fight, he's not a great striker. The Cerrone fight, Cerrone is a great striker. And Cerrone realized he's coming in straight lined every time. That's why he started just throwing up the knee to the body, because he knew the kid would just run right into the knee to the body. He just like figured him out in real time, right? Mm-hmm. That's what a good striker is going to do. Francisco Trinaldo is also a good striker. And now his next time out, it should be the same thing. But Trinaldo, 40 years old, doesn't really let his hands go that much. They both land the same amount of strikes. It's a close fight. That fight could 100% get awarded to either guy, depending on what style of judge you are. However, the fight's in Texas. The kid's from Texas. It's going to go to him, and it does. So he could easily be 2-2 in the UFC, and then the one win is just the win over Dariush. It was his debut. He caught him before the fight really started. It was 40 seconds, 42 seconds, you know? Whereas Dober's just been giving a clean account of himself every time against a lot of lower echelon opponents, but every time you just see him get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. So now we're in quarantine times. Who's going to benefit from this quarantine times? When I looked into Hernandez, it turns out he's from a small camp. Mm-hmm. And when you listen to all of the advice his coaches give him between rounds, like go back to any between rounds in his UFC career and listen to the advice. Mm-hmm. Not great advice. They say a lot of stuff. Actually, they get called out one time by Trevor Whitman. He's like, the guy's talking too much. Like he's saying too much stuff. I don't know that this isn't just a kid with raw talent, raw potential. If he was at ATT for 3 or 4 years, maybe this is a world title contender. We all thought he was a future contender, but I'm not so sure. Whereas Dober's just been looking good. And so that goes back to who's going to employ the right game plan. Dober's maybe not a Cowboy Cerrone striker, but why isn't he? He's a 2-time amateur Muay Thai world champion. His striking is clean as fuck. He's got big power. He just knocked out Nasrat Hakparas, which totally crushed my bets, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I love Nasrat Hakparas. Dober is no joke. He's coming into his own. And by the way, he's the lead training partner for Justin Gaethje, who just got an incredible win on Saturday. Yeah, the guy's in great shape. He's on a slick little roll right now. And I do feel that. So Hernandez is still unknown. Is he good? I don't know. He didn't look good against Trinaldo. Didn't look good against Cerrone. But that 142-second knockout, only that one time, whereas Dober shows you something every time. Every time Dober shows you a little something more. But one thing is that because we've seen a lot on Dober, we do know he's not great up against the cage, and you can take him down. He's good at getting up, and Hernandez isn't good at holding guys down either. So even if Hernandez does get the takedown, Dober gets back up. But that's why the cage game is going to be huge. It's who plays the game plan. And I'm willing to bet that we've got Drew Dober, great shape, ready to roll, motivated. Just saw his buddy win in that fashion, and he's got an adrenaline coursing through his veins. It's time to go. And so I think minus 120, I'll take Drew Dober.
All good points. Looking forward to that fight either way. We move on. We've got Ricky Simon taking on Ray Borg. Ricky Simon, minus 160 favorite. Ray Borg can be had 4+ 140. I saw this at like plus 160 earlier. You saw a lot of people jump on. This is the one that I've been really thinking long and hard about. I mean, okay, so first things first, I have no intentions whatsoever of betting Ricky Simon. I know he's got like a 5.5-inch reach advantage, but basically, once I saw him get knocked out by Faber, I can't trust this guy anymore. Literally, yeah, that one burned me so bad that it's probably deep in my bones, I guess. I know Ricky Simon was taken down a whole bunch of times by Merab Dvalishvili in their one fight, but for the most part, his wrestling is pretty decent. And Ray Borg coming up from 125 again, to 135. I don't know if he's able to hold him down. I could see this being a striking affair. In that situation, I would favor Ricky Simon, but I don't trust his chin. And Ray Borg is super talented. So it would be a dogger pass. I'm going to be passing on this one. What about you?
So that's a very, very large problem about Ricky Simon, and I couldn't agree more, is that low-key, maybe it's not low-key, you know about it, his chin is no good. And I'm not saying that because Faber caught him. I'm saying that because you look at his first pro loss, Anderson dos Santos, not known for his power punching whatsoever. He drops Ricky Simon, hurts him bad, and then submits him. So on paper, it's a submission loss. But he seriously got hurt by a non-power puncher there. By no problem. Ronnie Yaya. Oh, by the way, Marat Dobashvili actually dropped him as well, standing. Marat Dobashvili is a decision machine. 2 KO wins in his entire career. He seriously hurt Ricky Simon as well. Ronnie Yaya can't. He's not a strike. You know, he throws caution to win because he's like, whatever, take me down. Yeah, I'll give him that. He's a go-getter now. He'll throw. But, like, he doesn't have an ounce of power. He stung Ricky Simon. Didn't drop him. He seriously stung Ricky Simon with the right hand. Mm-hmm. And then Faber comes off retirement. He's an aged statesman. And he drops him, and he gets the first knockout win. So it looks like he's only been knocked out the one time. He took some good shots against Rob Font. Can't take that away from him. Did take some good shots against Rob Font. However, yeah, he's a tad bit chinny. And so I agree with you. Taking him as a minus 170, which is what I'm looking at right now. I think you mentioned 160 on your side.
I mean,
taking him as a favorite like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can get prices.
Yeah, I mean,
you can get.
Just kind of got
here's the thing, guys. Always price shop. Like, you should have multiple. I was telling somebody the other day about this. Just like, you should have. I guess you don't actually do it. You usually just use one book, I guess. But I have like 6. I think I have like 10 accounts, but like I have like 5 or so that have money in it at any given time. It's important to, get the best little edge that you can get in any single fight. But sorry, I cut you off. Where were you going there?
Yeah, no, it's no problem. If you're playing one book, you're taking the line that it is. When we talk about it on the show, obviously, if we say 170 and it's 160, like it's close enough. Like it's not super crazy, but for the sake of it, what I'm saying is taking him at minus 170 against a lot of guys is now going to become a problem because I do feel, even though he's talented, guy can wrestle, guy's got great cardio, guy's got variables to him that I do enjoy. Is that when you're getting clips and you're getting hurt by non-power punchers, the higher you go up the ladder, the more you're running into trouble, and that's a problem. However, Ray Borg has not knocked out a man in 7 years. Ray Borg is not a power puncher. And I know I just said this guy's getting rocked by non-power punchers, but I don't see that. And that's where I do think Ricky Simon is an appropriate favorite, is that Ray Borg is seemingly relying on his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu 100% of the time. He just tries to get the takedown. He just tries to grind on you. There doesn't appear to be a plan B there. Mm-hmm. The problem is that most of the guys he's fighting, they can't do anything about it. He doesn't have to resort to a plan B. Yeah. Ricky Simon, he wasn't a collegiate wrestler. Apparently he was a really good high school wrestler. And then instead of wrestling collegiately, it fanned out for him. He just kind of went right to MMA. Mm-hmm. But the guy's from the Midwest. He knows how to wrestle. He's from a wrestle-heavy camp. I feel like that's going to neutralize Borg. On top of that, you look at that fight against Davashvili, he's getting tossed around, and he gets right back up every single time.
That's what Davashvili...
There's a couple takedowns on him.
Sorry. Yeah, there's our delay issue again. It's really tough. But Davashvili takes down everybody at like 10-plus times. So, like, that's just... He's basically... I was thinking about it actually last night. He's basically like bantamweight Colby Covington.
Yeah. You know what? That's a good example. Like he keeps on you, and he just keeps grinding and grinding and grinding. Takedowns are just heavy. If he doesn't get the first one, he'll get the second one. But his top control is not necessarily great, but he just keeps on you. And Ricky Simon, I thought, gave a great account of himself. Technically gets the win in that fight, even though we all know it's up. It was still a good enough outing from him to show, okay, as far as his wrestling goes, he'll be okay. You look at the Ronnie Yaya fight. Well, Ronnie Yaya is great at jiu-jitsu. And, Simon takes him down 4 times. He plays around a little bit with him, but he stays out of harm's way. So we're talking about maybe he's not a great striker, maybe he's a little chinny. As far as the wrestling goes, it's fine. Mm-hmm. And so looking at Borg, especially by the numbers, Borg is 100% takedown. Mm-hmm. There's little for him to fall back on. And I know I just got into numbers, a second ago, so I don't want to bore everybody with numbers. But looking at Ray Borg, it's astonishing, right? his last fight, he scored 10 takedowns.
Yeah.
Had 35 significant strikes landed with 10 takedowns. That's strange. The fight before that, Paul, it goes 15 minutes. He lands 15 strikes, 6 takedowns, 15 strikes landed. The fight before that, Casey Kinney, 7 takedowns, 17 strikes. Against Demetrius Johnson, who's the greatest, 13 strikes. That's just the point. Those are his last 4 opponents. What I'm saying is his last 4 opponents, he tries to take you down. He gets you down, but he does not ground and pound you, and he does not punch you standing up. He just tries to close the distance and grapple with you. And Ricky Simon's not a great striker, but Ricky Simon throws twice that in terms of volume. So if Borg's wrestling is neutralized just by the fact that, let's say Simon's a little bit bigger, he's 5'6" against Borg's 5'4". He's a natural bantamweight versus Borg, who, and he's got a 7-inch or a 6-inch reach advantage.
Exactly.
So if it stays standing, it should be Simon. But Ricky Simon versus Ray Borg, a kickboxing match, minus 170. Ricky Simon, no chance.
Yeah.
So either dog or pass or just pass.
Yeah, We're on the exact, that's exactly my exact thoughts. That's kind of where I landed on it. I wanted to bet Borg. The knee-jerk gut reaction was bet Borg, but I'm a little hesitant. I think it's going to be, unless Ricky Simon gets knocked out somehow, I think it's going to be a great opportunity to bet, like a live bet opportunity, to be perfectly honest. This goes 3 rounds. You're going to get windows to get some action in there. So I'll definitely be earmarking this one as a live betting opportunity. We'll have a better sense of whether Simon can stop the takedowns, whether Borg can take him down and hold him down. In the first, 3 or 4 minutes, we should probably have a pretty good idea about that. So that's what I'll be looking for on that fight. We move on down. We got Marvin Vettori taking on Karl Roberson. Marvin Vettori minus 165. Karl Roberson plus 145. What's your take here, Cody?
I gotta go with Marvin Vettori. I mean, I've always been half impressed with him. I think that he's not a prospect that should be rushed along. If they gave him big fights, massive fights, I totally get he actually lost a split decision against Adesanya, so that is a massive fight. But they haven't really rushed him along. They've let him develop. They've let him fight fellow up-and-comers. Adesanya was also an up-and-comer. And I feel like that's allowed his growth a little bit, where he's starting to put it together. I mean, he's still only 26 years old. So training at an elite level, being a good athlete like he is, and the Gracie theory there is his strength and conditioning program is on point.
Very much so.
There's a lot to like about this kid,
Takes
especially when you got to put money on him. Man, yeah, very much, very much. So again, what I go back to shows a little bit in every fight is that he's very well-rounded. I mean, you want to talk about his striking, he's seemingly pressuring guys, moving. He likes to be on the front foot. I mean, he throws decent volume, decent power. He's out-striking mid-level guys. Karl Roberson, as far as on paper goes, all day is a better striker. But that's only because Karl Roberson, has got some pro kickboxing experience. Mind you, he's 0-3 in pro kickboxing, but he had fought in good guys. Not good guys, I should say. Jerome LeBanner is one of my favorite kickboxers of all time. That's a good fight. But he lost to Justin Jacoby and Michael Lemaire in straight-up kickboxing matches. I couldn't look you in the eyes and tell you that Dustin Jacoby or Michael Lemaire are better kickboxers than Marvin Vettori. So saying that Karl Roberson is a better kickboxer, again, you got to take it with a slight grain of salt. So him jumping into the UFC, it's a lot of, he's not ready for the UFC as well, but he beats Ryan Spann, 15 seconds, contender series, gets the contract. He's 4-0, still very green, beats Darren Stewart, good little win for him. And that's where we see the holes in his game. Cesar Ferreira took him down like nothing, submitted him. Jack Marshman, pure banger. Don't got to worry about that. Glover Teixeira takes him down, submits him. Wellington Turman takes him down 4 times, okay? If Turman wasn't a fool who kept giving up position, I don't know how he kept getting reversed. It was a bad top game. Turman should have probably won that fight, but it's a split. And then his last fight against Kopylov. Kopilov's a boxer and just gave a very poor account of himself. UFC debut, didn't let his hands go, no good. So honestly, as far as I'm concerned, Marvin Vettori straight up kickboxing Karl Roberson will be competitive. I think that he moves forward on Roberson. Roberson's going to have some opportunities, but Vettori has a great chin. Vettori is going to outwork him a little bit. I like that straight up kickboxing. It's that variable of I think that he's got way better wrestling. He'll be able to take him down. When he does take him down, Roberson just gives up submissions. Even if Roberson doesn't give up the submission in this fight, he'll just give up positions. gives up positions. Vettori's not want to get swept over and over. The kid's just going to keep on going. He's not going to have cardio issues. He's going to push that pace through. There's a lot to like. Outside of the Omari Akhmedov fight, where he takes the first 2 rounds off before getting going, and say the Carlos Jr. fight, where it's just he took a couple rounds off and didn't get going, that's what made me not like this kid. That's why I didn't want them to rush him along. Let him develop. But as far as him beating Cesar Ferreira and then beating Andrew Sanchez, you see that willingness. You see the frustration of the Sanchez fight, where it's like he wants to engage. He wants to fight. He wants to get after it. He needs a willing dance partner. Roberson is not going to run away from him. He's going to give him that dance partner. And unfortunately, I feel that Vettori's got better skills in the areas that are going to matter for him to at least score a decision. If not, I do think he can get a submission victory. Minus 170, not a terrible price tag, especially when I compare that to the fact that Ricky Simon's minus 170 favorite. As far as them both being the same price tag on this quick little book I'm looking at right now, I would say Vettori would be the better pick, and he's going to be my pick in this fight.
Yeah, I hear that. I think he's the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. I love the camp that he trains out of. I've actually always kind of liked the kid, and I think the chin checks out as well. So I think he can stand in there and bang. He can go 3 rounds with just about anyone. He obviously went 3 rounds with the current champ, so that ain't nothing to sneeze at either. All right, we move to the heavyweight division. We have Felipe Lins taking on Andre Arlovski. Lins, minus 155. Arlovski, 135. The question with every single Andre Arlovski fight is, can this guy, does this guy have the death touch, or does he have clean enough, powerful enough striking to turn out the lights? Because if he does, Andre loses those fights. If Andre has better striking than you and you don't really have power, Andre's been pulling the cat out of the bag for years. This is just what he does. Everyone's thought this guy's career's been over for 5-10 years. Is Lins the guy to put Arlovski asleep here, though, Code?
Yeah, I mean, with Andre Arlovski, that's the talk every time. Can he take the punch or can he not take the punch? He's a mobile heavyweight. He's fallen into the gatekeeper role. And I just don't know. It's hard to get a read on him. Listen, he's 1-5 in his last 6 fights, and the win over Ben Rothwell, I know I just backed as well. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of close fights in that mix, Paul. The Augusto Sakai fight was close. It was a split decision. The Walt Harris fight, whatever, it's split decision. The Shamil Abdurakhimov, not a terrible blowout. The Tai Tuivasa fight, not a terrible blowout. But it's that he can lose to an up-and-comer like Tai Tuivasa. He can lose to an established veteran like Shamil Abdurakhimov. He can lose to a one-dimensional striker like Yarazino Rosenstruck. There's no rhyme or rhythm. He's not fighting terribly. Mm-hmm. He's a guy with 19 professional losses on his record. Losing ain't no thing. So on one hand, it's hard to back that guy. Now they'll offer you a good price tag. They'll try to get you to say, geez, under Arlovski, 135. The reason you're getting that is Felipe Lins has been off he's been off 2 years. Prior to that, he was smoking guys in PFL, so it's his UFC debut. It's been off for a while. What are you going to get? You should get a better price. I don't know. I just feel like 135 on Arlovski's not enough. Felipe Lins, he's got question marks, but he's got decent gas tank. He can strike. He doesn't deal particularly well with mobile heavyweights, right? So the wins that he had in PFL, Kyle Alencar, very slow and lumbering. Jared Rosholt, good wrestler, very slow and lumbering as far as stand-up goes. Josh Copeland, again, wrestler, very slow and lumbering. So there is an avenue to victory for Andre Arlovski. Andre Arlovski is a live dog, but 135 isn't that live dog price I'm looking for. I would have to say this is a hard pass. Again, Arlovski's lost. He's done so much losing in his career and a lot of recent losing that if he loses this fight, nobody should be surprised. You shouldn't try to chase him. At this point, I'm a little over the Arlovski train. And with Felipe Lins, there's just too many question marks. So 100%
pass. We're
shooting the show on Monday. Sunday was Mother's Day. Saturday was the last card. I got a tape study starting these next couple fights. Yeah, is where I've got to really dive in. I feel super comfortable with the fights we just talked about. But from right here, it's a question mark fight. It's going to require extra time. It's going to require extra attention. I'm going to tell you with a straight, flat pass right now. I might come to the realization by tomorrow or Wednesday, Felipe Lins isn't as bad a shape or whatever. Let's find out some low-key info on him. But for right now, I'm going to say pass. just not enough dog money on Arlovski and Felipe Lin's, long absence.
Yep.
3-round fight, UFC debut. We'll have to see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally on that. It's obviously there's the fight Saturday night. I was up real wired from that card, and then didn't get to bed until like 4 a.m. So I was researching yesterday, but there's a whole bunch of fights on this. And obviously it was Mother's Day, so spent some time virtually with Mama Bear there. So yeah, actually this next fight here, I haven't actually done any tape study yet. I'll throw that out on the line completely. Thiago Moises versus Michael Johnson. Do you have any hot takes here? Like, I haven't had a chance to really look into this one. A bunch of the other fights I do have takes as we move along here, but this is one of the fights that hasn't got my attention yet. Do you have anything on it, or should people reach out to us on Twitter for maybe an update on it?
Yeah, well, again, you can always reach out for updates, especially that we'll have the show up by Monday, and then we'll have 2 days to look at things. But you're right, Michael Johnson got extremely unlucky, man. He was supposed to fight Kama Worthy, and we talked about this fight, and Kama Worthy was getting the rub. He was going to fight. He was being set up against Azatar, right? And you knew it was just a setup fight against Ottman Azatar. Azatar's out. Michael Johnson gets the fight. We liked him in that spot, and then boom, that fight gets canceled. You go from fighting, obviously a lesser-known opponent who has one win in the UFC to now taking a completely different style with Thiago Moises, who's going to look to grapple him. And that's the problem that I have with Michael Johnson, is that you and I talk about this all the time, all of his fights. Hey, man, he's not a bad wrestler. Everybody always talks about the big power. We know the guy's got big power. I mean, just look at his list of victims throughout his career, knocking out Dustin Poirier, absolutely putting on a wild clinic against Edson Barbosa. I mean, win over Tony Ferguson back in the day. It's like, this guy is a good striker. He's a great striker. He's fought the best guys, even in his losses. Nate Diaz, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Justin Gaethje. He rocked Justin Gaethje. The guy, his striking shouldn't be a problem. What's letting him down now is the fact that his grappling is just no good. And it keeps getting him into bad spots. And he's a guy that did wrestle junior college. Coming into the UFC, he was actually billed as a wrestler. When he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he was GSP's #1 draft pick. It was billed he was billed as somebody who had a wrestling base, was an athlete, had some decent power. He evolved into a striker, but at least he's going to be able to keep his fight standing so that he can use that striking. And that's what's been letting him down in his last number of fights. I mean, Darren Elkins' fight. Darren Elkins is a wrestler. When he got him down, that was it. Johnson had a decent first round, but in the second round, as soon as Elkins got on top of him and pressured him, he gives up the submission. Andre Fili, he wins, but man, he got taken down multiple times. I personally thought he'd lost that fight. I thought Andre Fili should have got the decision, and it was largely based on Fili taking him down when he wanted. Fili comes out of a wrestling camp and is a good wrestler, but he's not a great wrestler. He was able to get it done. The Josh Emmett fight, he knocks him down. The Stevie Ray fight, I thought he won that fight. But you know what lost him that on the scorecards and in the moment? Fucking wrestling. He got taken down. Stevie Ray styled on him in the third round, and then he lost a majority decision. So getting that fight against Kama Worthy was awesome, because Kama Worthy's a banger. Kama Worthy's going to stand in front of him. Kama Worthy's going to throw hands. There was also a fight with Evan Dunham in the mix there. Dunham's a wrestler. That's a bad fight. But maybe Dunham's over the hill. Who knows? The problem with Moises is he's a grappler, and he's not over the hill. You know, he's 25 years old. He's not seemingly on a great run in the UFC, but the guys he's fought, Benil Dariush, Kurt Holobaugh, Damir Ismagulov, all fucking grapplers. He's had 3 fights in the UFC, and he's taking on 3 black belt level guys. So he's getting a breath of fresh air in taking the Michael Johnson fight, in that Johnson's a better striker than him, but if he can get Johnson down, he should be able to have his way. But I'm in the same boat as you. I haven't been able to – I know he can wrestle. 4 takedowns over Kurt Holobaugh. He didn't look terrible in that fight. The Benil Dariush fight, he didn't do much. He mostly submission with the guillotine submission. Like, that was his mostly just threatening with that a lot. In the Ismagulov fight, again, he's just not – I don't know. It's just very, very, very tough style clash. This should be better off for him. It's just I really got to delve into, is he going to get Johnson down for sure? Because if he doesn't, no doubt Johnson's a better striker. No doubt Johnson's on. Johnson puts it on him. And on top of all that, this is Johnson at 155 pounds. I didn't like him at 45, Paul. I thought going down took something off his zap. Like he wasn't hitting that hard anymore, which is crazy for him considering the amount of power he's shown out through his career. So 55 is better for Johnson. I feel like if it's a stand-up battle, yeah, all day. But I gotta just make sure that it's gonna be a Moises takedown. And if it is, I would take Moises. The bookie's telling you 50-50 because as far as they're concerned, yeah, if Moises gets him down, Moises wins, and if Johnson keeps it up, Johnson wins.
Mm-hmm.
So before I can give you a hard lean on that, again, that's another one I'm going to have to look at again.
Fair enough. We got Sajara Eubanks, biggest favorite on the card, also owns a 4-4 record. That kind of shows you the quality of competition that we're dealing with here. She takes on Sarah Moras. Sajara Eubanks, a minus 380. Sarah Moras, plus 315. This should be on Fight Pass. So I could make the joke. This one really puts the pass in Fight Pass. The only thing I'm considering for this is Sajara Eubanks does not have the ability typically to go 3 rounds. She gets real gas in round 3. There's the possibility that Sarah Moras, pretty thick. She's a well put together woman, I guess you could say. And I think Sajara Eubanks used to fight at 125. She's kind of small for the weight class. Holding down Moras could maybe tire out Eubanks. You could get some absurd type of punt odds after like a round 1 thrashing or something for Moras to come back. That's the only thing I would even consider is like some sort of long shot live opportunity in this fight. Otherwise, yeah, it's a straight up pass. What about you?
Yeah, well, Eubanks is obviously the favorite, very clearly. 380 is not a very good price tag, but yeah, we do expect her to get the win. Sarah Moras just doesn't have a whole lot of paths to victory.
No.
Like, if she's going to get the win over any opponent, she's going to have to fall over on top position, get you down somehow, maybe outwork you. Your cardio is not terrible. She's got some work to her. But she's got to rely heavily on her ground game. Like, that's her tool. There's not a whole lot of striking there. There's not a whole lot of wrestling there. She ends up on top of a decent top game. That's right out the window against Sajara Eubanks, who's just a much better grappler to begin with. She's also much stronger than her. She has much better wrestling, and she has much better striking. I feel like this is one of those fights where Eubanks will have a good first round. She'll start to gas in the second round. In the third round, maybe she takes it off and loses the third round, wins a 29-28, or she cruises on through. Mm-hmm. If we're looking for theories, and theoretically, Eubanks is risky because, yeah, when she's having full training camps and it's a normal world and nothing has changed and everything is good and you can do whatever you want, her strength and condition, like her cardio just never really checks out. I mean, she gets tired. When she gets tired, her hands drop. She's breathing heavy. She can't get the takedowns anymore. She uses a lot of muscle into all the techniques anyways. Like when she throws hands, she throws bombs. When she's wrestling, she's trying to muscle you to the ground. When she's on the ground, she's trying to, establish control just by overstrengthening you, right? Now that you throw all that off the window, it's like, oh, geez, on top of that, this is someone who used to, like, shave their head to make weight. This is someone who didn't have great weight cuts on top of not having great cardio. So I get that, you know what, the fight's 135 pounds. Like, she's struggled with 125. Coming up to 135, it should be easier for her. But again, it's just like there's a lot of question marks always with that. So now that it's pandemic time, it's like, oh, man. Is she going to make weight clean? Is she going to come out here? Is she going to have great gas tank? Did she have a good camp? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Those are all question marks that you don't even want to think about when you're laying
minus
380.
Yeah.
So when you look about it in that regard, that's a hard pass. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I couldn't tell you dog or pass is because even though Sarah Moras maybe could play into that, hey, geez, she's a big dog, why not play the chance that maybe Eubanks doesn't have a good weight cut? She didn't have a good camp, and she is going to tire. It's like it's not going to matter. Other Eubanks opponents, they make her work, right? They make her work, and it tires, right? Whereas if Sarah Moras is on her back most of the time, she's not going to make her work. It's going to be a rest position for Eubanks. Yeah. Eubanks easily can take this girl down. Her wrestling's much better. When she does take her down, she doesn't really got to do much. She doesn't have to advance. The fans aren't going to be booing. No one's going to be calling for a stand-up. It's in an empty arena. She's just going to be able to it'll be a jiu-jitsu match. Yeah. And can she just beat Sarah Moras in a jiu-jitsu match for 15 minutes? Fucking no doubt about it. To put things into perspective, Sarah Moras, 2 years ago, or it's 3 fights ago, I guess. It's better thing. But Toledo Bernardo is no good. She's got a 4-3 record at the time. She's simply just a BJJ black belt who's apparently strong. That's enough to just take this girl down and beat her. Macy Chason ended up getting exposed hard in the fights later. But what has Macy Chason got going for? Well, she's just actually really big and strong. Gets on top of Moras, pounds her out, actually. And then in her last fight, she's got the advantage of she's taking on a non-grappler. But with the Eubanks, I think Eubanks just ends up on top of her, has her way. It's the question marks surrounding the camp and the weight cut. And Eubanks is 4-4, but she's a -380 favorite. Yeah. Terrible price tag. All of that leads to the decision of pass. But I get why Eubanks is the favorite. She's the better fighter.
Greasy theory, Cody. Want to hear it?
Yeah, shoot.
Sarah Moras must know where the bodies are buried. Because, she was on a 3-fight losing streak, and then they tee her up with Liana Jajua, to get you back on track, and, now your career's kind of back in order. She must know something. She knows something. How do you get through, losing to Lucy Pudilova, Toledo Bernardo, Macy Chason, and then get a matchup like that? She should be very, very thankful. People get cut for a lot less in this sport. But I think we summed it up. It's a big time stay away fight all around. We move on. This one's very, very interesting, I believe. We got Omar Morales taking on Gabriel Mowgli Benitez. Gabriel Benitez plus 155 underdog to Omar Morales minus 175 favorite. Watching Omar Morales on the Contender Series, I kind of thought he looked a little bit stiff and clunky, to be perfectly honest. I mean, these guys are all professional fighters. We'll talk about people throwing shade at Frankie Murder's technique on Twitter. Look in the comment section for that. I got takes. But you have to put in perspective that I'm a pudgy guy wearing a Habib time shirt and a freaking hat. I'm a fanboy, right? But he looked kind of clunky when I looked at him on the Contender Series. Wasn't impressed with his real UFC debut all that much, though he got the win. I feel like this line is kind of representative of the fact that people see, he's 9-0. He's got a 0 next to his name. This guy must be amazing. Gabriel Benitez has been a cash train, I think, over the history of this program. Usually he's pretty big underdog. I took some last night at plus 162. Guy kicks like a mule. Those leg kicks from him are really, really insane. I like where he trains at. Obviously, with everything in quarantine time, it's gonna be interesting. Omar Morales is gonna look a lot more impressive on the scales. Don't be fooled by that. I just think, Mowgli's been around for a long time. I like the technique. I like the camp. And at plus 162, I had to take a little slice last night. What do you think about that?
You know what? I totally think it's worth a shot, for sure. I totally think it's worth a shot, for sure. Omar Morales has got this perception, I guess, for a lot of people. He comes into the UFC, or he comes into Contender Series, and he's undefeated, right? And so it's okay, nice little record. We'll see what he got. Takes on Harvey Park, 12-2. Okay, well, fun little fight. And he had at the time, he was a plus 220 underdog. Okay, he smokes out Harvey Park. Comes to the UFC, gets the big win. Okay, so let's just break it down why I'm not overly impressed with this guy. Right? You look at his undefeated record, and for the large part, he fought absolutely nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Fought a couple guys in Venezuela that may or may not even exist. Right? Beyond that, 1-0, 1-1, 0-2. That's about it. Fights for Bellator. He gets a first-round KO over a 3-0 opponent, 58 seconds in. Why wouldn't Bellator put pen to paper with this guy? Why is it a guy undefeated record? He fights out of the Black Zillions camp. What's known as the Black Zillions camp is Hard Knocks 365. But he's out of a credible camp. He's got his training partners are all in the UFC or in Bellator or in high-level organizations. He comes out, he gets a sweet 58-second victory with a head kick. They don't sign him, strange enough. Then he gets Harvey Park, right? Harvey Park, not known to anybody, regional scene fighter, and yet he's a 220 underdog to Harvey Park. You know why? Because people looked at tape and thought, geez, this guy looks clunky, eh?
Yeah.
But he gets a nice win. Boy, oh boy, nice win over Harvey Park. Now he's in the UFC. He gets on Dong Hyun Ma. I mean, they give him a tailor-made opponent because you can get away with being clunky power puncher against Dong Hyun Ma. Doesn't knock him out, though. Interesting to note because Dong Hyun Ma's chin not so great anymore.
Used to be until Marco Polo Reyes absolutely ruined him.
Yeah, that is true. It was legendary until then. But again, Omar Morales goes through the motions. He gets the win. He doesn't look like he's a 240 favorite, which is what he was against Dong Hyun Ma. It doesn't look great, but enough to get the victory here. And now he's taking on Gabriel Benitez. So again, you look back at all the tape and you think, geez, this guy is a little stiff and a little bit rigid. But I think a lot of people, the perception is, geez, undefeated guy, signed with the UFC on the Contender Series fight. That's awesome. I watched Contender Series, so I like them. See him debut in the UFC. He got the win. Okay, I like him. Undefeated record. Taking on a guy that's lost 7 times in his career. Like, why not go with this guy? He's 34 years old. And that's going to be the key here in my decision-making process here, Paul. Is like you said, when you look at him, he does look a little clunky. And if it was, I'll be 100% honest with you, and this is also armchair quarterback Cody Saftic here. Alexander Hernandez's striking looks fucking clunky as well. That's another part of the reason why I'm going to go against him. Like, you look at the fight with Cerrone, you look at the fight against Ronaldo, he's a good athlete, not a great striker.
Yeah.
The difference is he's 26 years old. Give him 4 years, that athleticism will eventually translate over. He could be a good striker. He's putting all the pieces together. I don't think 34-year-old Omar Morales is putting the pieces together, and he's not the same type of athlete regardless. So being that, I don't know that he's making massive improvements. I don't know. Flip side to that, Mowgli Benitez has already been fighting in the UFC for, his debut was in like 2014, 6 years in the UFC. He's fought a ton of guys.
Yeah, I thought it was 2013 when I was looking earlier. He doesn't fight very often, though. It's only a couple. He only blesses our bank accounts every, maybe once a year, sometimes twice a year.
Yeah, I mean, he's fought 8 times in the UFC in like 6 years, right? So, I mean, yeah, he doesn't fight a ton, but the word on him out of AKA was always he's the hardest kicking guy in the gym. And that means something because the gym's literally called the American Kickboxing Academy, right? The guy can bang. There's no doubt about that. They've tried to move him up against upper echelon opponents. He falters. When he takes on mid to low level guys, he shines. It's where you rank Omar Morales. Sodiq Youssef, there's no problem losing to him. He's fucking awesome, right? Enrique Barzola, that's a very weird style clash, and I'm going to favor him. But those mid-level guys, Jason Knight's the fucking world bare-knuckle boxing top contender. You stand with this guy, you're a mid-level guy. He can do some damage, no doubt about it. It's whether you believe Omar Morales is an upper echelon fighter or if he's maybe just the beneficiary of a good little lucky run. Yeah. And I'm thinking that 9-0 record doesn't look as good as I think it does. So I'm also thinking poke on Gabriel Benitez. I'm not all in on it.
Yeah, me neither.
Because again, it's at the bottom of the card. Like these bottom last 4 or 5 fights, I'm giving you my play, I'm giving you my pick, I'm giving you my thoughts. But again, those are the ones that when I hang up the phone call, I spend the rest of my night looking at those ones to make sure. But my preliminary thoughts are Benitez gets this done in a striking battle that goes 3.
Couldn't agree more. We got Hunter Azure taking on Brian Kelleher. Azure minus 175. Kelleher plus 155. Kind of like what I saw from Azure, MMA lab guy. We always love betting those guys. Just a really, really gritty gym. Tough, hard-nosed, lots of good training partners. I don't know what's going on there. That's maybe something I'm going to have to look into. Azure seems to have an amazing gas tank. His gas tank does seem to hold up. But Kelleher can be sneaky with the submissions. I think the line is priced appropriately here. I am leaning towards Azure right now. That could change. I'm not sold. There's no bets being made on this fight quite yet, but Azure is the pick. I did like what I saw from him on Contender Series. What about you?
Azure, there's a lot to like with Azure in that he's got my 2 favorite things, right? Wrestling and cardio. Mm-hmm. And you can win a lot of fights with wrestling and cardio. And you can win a lot of lower level fights with wrestling and cardio. And I'm not going out there saying Brian Kelleher is a low level opponent. Again, 35 veteran, guy that's, fought some high level guys in the UFC, guy that, had some tricks up his sleeve. I mean, he surprised a lot of people his last time out beating Odie Osborne, even though it wasn't that shouldn't have really shocked that many people. all the same, you can't count this guy out as an underdog in any spot. Does have a sneaky little submission game, does have decent wrestling of his own. But I think Hunter Azure is just that young kid that's just going to apply that pressure on Kelleher, take him down, stay out of submissions, work him. I don't know if it's a blessing in disguise or just a testament of like how good people are high up on Azure, but he was initially supposed to take on, before this Corona canceled 249 the first time around, he was supposed to take on Umar Nurmagomedov.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that fight. And I'm telling you straight up, nobody wants that fight. But yet Hunter Azure, who's undefeated, doesn't have to. I mean, he's one fight into his UFC career. He's still young, 28. He doesn't need to take this fight, but they're willing to take this fight. In fact, they want to take this fight. And now he's ending up with Brian Kelleher. I'm thinking, the people around him are heavy on him, like the same thing I see. Jeez, this guy's he's not tiring. He's got good top control. He'll just keep plowing you. I like Brad Katona. I think Brad Katona has a lot to offer. The one issue with Brad Katona is that he can't deal with power wrestling, top heavy pressure, stronger opponents. And the UFC, for whatever reason, give him Merab Dvalishvili, Hunter Azure, and then cut him. Massive slap in the face. It is what it is. But let's not forget that Brad Katona is the guy that took out Bryce Mitchell out of The Ultimate Fighter. The guy's a fucking badass. Hunter Azure showed me in there. He's not just, he isn't a young up-and-comer, but he's improving. He's got the intangibles that I like. He's someone that could go out there and make some money. Brian Kelleher, we were talking about retirement for Brian Kelleher prior to him submitting Odie Osborne. Okay? We go from retirement, Brian Kelleher. Even he's talking about it. He's lost to Lineker, which is a great fight. He lost to Montel Jackson. He's down on himself. The Odie Osborne fight, he comes in against a virtual unknown he's a minus 140 to this virtual unknown. And this virtual unknown also tends to spend time at Duke Rufus's academy, which is a surefire success to get you a loss. And yet Brian Kelleher wins and he's back. I'm not sure he's back. I think this is, the 33-year-old great podcaster, really entertaining guy, good dude, Brian Kelleher, got other things to do with his life versus this 28-year-old kid. He's undefeated. He just got into the UFC one fight ago. It's not passing of the torch because they're not great contenders yet. But yeah, it's the old versus the young, and I think that Azure is going to put the pressure on him and get the win. 175, not a bad price tag. Couldn't tell you if it's a decision or not. I feel like it's a decision because the problem with being cardio wrestlers and just grinding on guys is it doesn't lead to a ton of submissions or TKOs. But with Kelleher, it's I don't know. He's been submitted by guys I did not think was going to happen. Yep. He's been TKO'd in the past. He's had wonky finishes to fights, I should say. So I can't give you whether I think that's going to be a decision or inside the distance, but I think that Azure gets the job done.
Yep, I agree there. And finally, we've got Chase, the Vanilla Gorilla, Sherman, returning to the UFC after a little stint in bare knuckle boxing, and he's on fighting for island fights. I mean, anybody who's new, Chase was a regular in terms of us fading in the heavyweight division. Well, he's taking on Ike Villanueva, who comes in, UFC debut here. Chase Sherman's a favorite, minus 155. Ike Villanueva, plus 135. We made money just fading Chase Sherman every single fight on his regular or previous kind of string of fights with the organization, but he's taking on a career middleweight here, who, watching tape on him, I didn't see all that much. He did get a first-round finish against Rashad Coulter at 205 pounds. So Coulter used to fight at heavyweight. Him and Sherman actually already had a fight of the night, fight of the year, if you're into that type of dirty type of stuff, a real sloppy heavyweight banger. He already had that with Sherman. So I like to think that Sherman already had broken Coulter for Villanueva all those years ago. I like Sherman. I bet him at minus 138 last night. It's moving up to minus 150. I'm just plugging my nose and doing it, Cody. I just think Chase has a massive size advantage. The reach advantage is quite significant as well. Just looking that up here. Yeah, he's got a 5.5-inch reach advantage. I think the leg kicks for Chase are going to be the real thing here. He's just so much bigger. I think this is a heavyweight fight where I think the size is going to matter. I can't believe I'm saying this, Cody. Give me Chase Sherman. I already bet it.
You know what? Chase Sherman at the value you got, 138. You know what? Just like you said, plug your nose, jump in. It's going to be a fun fight. You're going to want some action, and Chase Sherman's the move. The more it's moving towards Chase Sherman now, don't be taking this if it gets to like Sherman 170, 185, strictly because, yeah, Chase Sherman's going to give you exactly what you want. He'll stand there and he'll slug, and if you are a good fighter or you are a bad fighter, you are going to have a chance at beating Chase Sherman. Because, yeah, he gives you so many opportunities. I mean, his bare-knuckle boxing career is indicative of that as well. But even when he was in the UFC, the fact that he was in razor-close fights with Rashad Coulter, the fact that he was losing to, Justin Willis, the fact that he's getting beat up by these guys, I don't know, man. It's not a great look for him. Now he gets cut. He gets on a little run, beat a couple decent guys, turns to bare-knuckle, won his first couple fights in bare-knuckle. I think he got a draw against my boy Schumacher, actually. And then he loses to Joey Beltran. How is he even back in the UFC? This is why Chase Sherman and Ike Villanueva are probably the happiest people about this whole coronavirus thing. There's no other world that really exists where they both get signed to the UFC for a makeshift heavyweight fight on the undercard of some Wednesday makeshift Jacksonville Fight Night 2 card. The fuck is going on here, right? But they needed guys, and they put out a message to managers, hey, has anybody got anybody? And as a result, we're taking back Chase Sherman, and we're taking Ike Villanueva, who's 36 years old. Ike Villanueva was never going to fight in the UFC.
No.
And by the way, I'm very, very, very familiar with Ike Villanueva. I followed this guy for a long time. Texas regional banger middleweight. But I mean, he lost to my boy Marcus Sursa, journeyman. Cody Donovan, journeyman. Arcanus Young, journeyman. Larry Taekwondo Crow kicked him upside the head in that legacy fight and KO'd him. Now, he got submitted by Robert Drysdale, Paul, and there's no shame in that. But then he got submitted by Justin Ledet, and there's a lot of shame in that. His wins over just very low-level, all Texas guys. Like, his entire career is in Texas. He's fought – I'm going to go and say he may have never fought outside of Texas. But we need guys. Now's the time to shine. So in comes Ike Villanueva, a middleweight that had been campaigning as a 205er, beat Roger Narvaez, UFC veteran, but was a middleweight and a jiu-jitsu guy, jiu-jitsu black belt, not known for striking, caught him very early. Rashad Coulter, UFC veteran, and he also knocked him out. So again, if you're looking at it just as far as paper goes, he's knocked out his last two opponents. They're both UFC veterans. And by the way, Roger Narvaez and Rashad Coulter are the same level of a Chase Sherman. Well, that's where you're wrong. Maybe like talent, skill, upside, potential, maybe they're in the same category, but they're not fucking heavyweight.
Exactly.
That's where Chase Sherman is a heavyweight. He's 6'4". He weighs 250 pounds.
He's got an 80-inch reach.
78-inch reach. Yeah, like he's a massive.
78. Sorry, yeah, you're right.
He's a massive, massive dude. And I think that'll be the problem. Is that like Ike's willing to throw down. Ike likes to throw down. Chase likes to throw down. They both stand there and they both throw down. And I'm telling you, we got a middleweight against a heavyweight. Like it's a no-brainer at 138, right? You have to start thinking about it. The more money that's coming in on Sherman is at what point are you willing to, hey, dude, they are just going to bang. And Sherman has gotten beat up by guys in the past that were really not all that skilled, but we're just willing to bang. You know, Ike's going to be faster than him, right? Because he is the middleweight. He's going to be faster than him. It's just I don't think that Ike's going to like those shots coming back at him from Sherman. Sherman's got a decent gas tank as well. So I think at the value you got it, jump on it. If not, either hit a pass. Regardless, it should be a fun fight to watch.
Yeah, where I see it right now, it's 150 to 160 across the industry right now. I think that'll get up to probably 200 by fight time. But I would absolutely not. 200 would be a pass. I think you were kind of right. Around the minus 170 range is where I would be in on that. What do you want to do next here? We're at the end. We can either do, we can save the recap for the end. We can talk about DraftKings or quick picks here. What do you think?
Well, let's jump into DraftKings. We'll talk DraftKings, and then because we're going to have to make arguments for a couple guys that we might not even picking based on value. We'll go through DK, then we'll do some quick picks, then we can recap if you want.
Sounds good. How you want to do this, DK? It's tough with our delay right now. We can't really bounce back and forth. Whenever I speak, there's about it feels like 2-second delay, as we kind of talked about earlier. So jumping back and forth, it's difficult for us on the line here. How do you want to go about this, Cody?
Okay, so you tee it up, and then you give your quick thought on it, and then I'll just either be like, yeah, fuck, Paul, I agree, or I'll throw a little something on there, and then just move down. That way you get the first win, I'm not interrupting you, and then I'll jump in behind you, so like I don't have to cut you off or whatever. But we'll go with that. And I've got the list of that you sent me, obviously. So I'm looking at the DK pricing right next to them.
So there's a few prices that are off on that. Or sorry, that just weren't on the page. But I'll be reading them out to you. So let's go through the card naturally. So Anthony Smith, 9,000 versus Anthony Smith versus Glover Teixeira, 9,000 and 7,200 respectively. I mean, right off the top of the show, we told you we like Glover Teixeira. One thing about Glover Teixeira here, he's the kind of guy who he's going to be probably at least testing out the waters of trying to go for a takedown, try to do a little bit of grappling, try to get to his patented head and arm choke. So I like Glover Teixeira here. I obviously see Anthony Smith as a viable play. If you like Anthony Smith, it's a 5-round fight. He doesn't really have the most output, and I don't think we're going to be landing takedowns from him. But obviously, if he gets a knockout versus Glover Teixeira, he's live to be in a top-end lineup. Glover Teixeira, like him a lot on DraftKings. He will be all over the place. I think I went a little bit long on that, Cody. I got a little bit too fired up. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree. $7,200 is a gift. If you look at Glover Teixeira, traditionally how he scores on DraftKings, it's good. He got like an 81-point average. His last 3 fights, I get he's all won them. But what I like there is because he's only $7,200. If he goes out against Krylov, he only had 1 takedown, 43 strikes, a couple reversals on advances on the ground. Bam, 79 points. If you're paying high-end money for a guy, 79 points just might not cut it on that big GPP. But dude, $7,200. I mean, yeah, they're really asking you on DK, hey, take a whiff of this guy, and it just so happens, like we talked about, we like this guy. So I think Glover Teixeira. The flip side with the Anthony Smith, even if he gets that 3rd or 4th round finish, because he's a low output guy, and I don't think he's going to be scoring any takedowns or getting ground transitions himself. If he gets a 3rd or 4th or 5th round finish for whatever reason, he still might not score all that much. So he's a hard pass. I like Glover.
We got OSP versus Ben Rothwell. OSP 8,700. Ben Rothwell 7,500. No OSP for me. I just think I don't think he's going to knock out Ben Rothwell, and the volume is never really enough. He's not going to knock him out or submit him, I wouldn't imagine. I don't think he's going to be able to do much grappling against a guy the size of Ben Rothwell, and the punch output isn't enough. It's Ben Rothwell or bust. I may just if I'm doing a single lineup, I may just stay away from this fight because I see the potential for it to be a little bit slower and like a decision win here. What's your take here?
If I'm playing a cash game lineup, I'd like Ben Rothwell actually a decent amount because even if he loses, I don't see him getting finished by OSP. It's going to go 3 rounds. We've seen him go 3 rounds and seemingly not do anything against Ivanov and Arlovski, and he scored 35 points both times. So yes, if he loses on a GPP, I have him. I'm screwed. If he loses on a cash game, at least he's not getting KO'd in the first round. He's not getting submitted in the first round. At least I would still get 35 points. And I'm only spending $7,500. So in that regard, there's a little bit of upside there. It's that I'm buying a little bit into this is I wouldn't say it's a greasy theory because it's just like a straight up theory, but I keep envisioning Ben Rothwell is going to submit him, and it's currently sitting at plus 1,100 or plus 1,100. It's 11-1 Ben Rothwell by submission. Just stick with me on this one. We'll rifle through the other DK picks quick, but I didn't really get a chance to say it when we broke down the fight earlier. But do you remember before this whole drug testing thing when he got the submission over Matt Mitrione and Josh Barnett, both of them the 6-finger guillotine?
Yep.
It was like, holy shit, dude, he submitted Josh Barnett with that modified guillotine. It's actually a modified front choke. He's really strong. And then since then, he hasn't – it's the level of guys he's fighting, the situation's never occurred. When I watch OSP fight, what happens when he starts to get tired is he presses you up against the cage and he sticks his head right into you. That leads Krylov to eventually rear naked choke him. That led to Ilir Latifi standing guillotine choking him. That led to Glover Teixeira back in the day submitting him, right?
Yep.
He's got an issue with putting his head right into danger. And against guys like, let's face it, Krylov's a banger. He's known as a striker, right? I mean, fair to say that. Ilir Latifi is known as a wrestler boxer. Fair to say that. They both scored submission victories over him. Glover Teixeira is the one guy with a bit of a ground game. And of course, he submitted him. I think Rothwell's submission game, because of the suspension, nobody really remembers that he does have a bit of a submission game to go to. And I see a scenario where OSP sticks his neck right into it. So as jumping it back to DraftKings, I think that he's got upside that he could score a finish. If he doesn't score a finish, he's still going to get you points. In a victory, he could still get you 70, 75 points. That's relative to what you paid for him. In a loss, again, still maybe 35. He's a cash game play.
Yep.
I don't know that I love him on GPPs.
We got Drew Dober versus Alexander Hernandez. Dober 8,300, Alexander Hernandez 7,900. I mean, Alexander Hernandez proved that he could take a lot of damage. Drew Dober, I mean, the chin on, or just like, look at he's got that Jay Leno chin, right? Like, for those watching on the video, this is why you watch the video. Like, look at that chin. Yeah, you're not gonna knock that shit out. Like, good luck. Like that it's like Fort Knox. Like, good luck. So, I don't know. Historically, these guys, unless they're getting the finishes, aren't the greatest scorers. If you really think like Alexander Hernandez has a big like wrestling advantage, is going to be getting takedowns, I could see the argument for that. But I think this is a fight that everyone really likes from a betting perspective. I think it's a fight that I don't feel like I have to have ownership to it. What about you?
Yeah, I actually agree with that. If you look at some of his fights where the finish didn't materialize, he either has to score just an overwhelming amount of strikes on you, or he does mix in some takedowns at some point. Mm-hmm. If he's not going to take down Hernandez, it's just going to be a striking battle, then yeah, who's to say? However, he's just so priced so nice here, $8,300. If you're going for it and you want a guy that's at least going to score 80 points, right, in a victory, if you're backing him to win, even without the takedown, if it's just 15 minutes of pure striking, he gets the better of those striking exchanges, he gets the win. He should be scoring around 70, 75, maybe 80 points. So again, it's somewhat relative to the salary. But we're not just discrediting that he couldn't get a finish over Alexander Hernandez, because he absolutely can. I'm not saying he hits harder than Donald Cerrone, because honestly, I don't believe that to be necessarily the case. But at least is why doesn't he? Oh my God, this guy's showing big power. Again, I mean, Polo Reyes, whatever. Guys can knock out Polo Reyes. That is what it is. Mm-hmm. But against High-Paras, man, he lit him up. And prior to that, the Beneil Dariush fight, yeah, it's on paper, submitted, but he was putting it on a very credible guy in Beneil Dariush. $8,300, geez, the upside is he gets the finish. The downside is maybe he just gets in a striking war, scores 60, 70 significant strikes. If he even gets one takedown with a ground transition, he'd be making it worth your while. I think you could do worse than Drew Dober. Flip side that to Hernandez, he's priced pretty good too. But his path to victory doesn't involve knocking out Drew Dober. His path to victory doesn't involve submitting Drew Dober. As we talked about, what I believe is if he's going to win, it's going to be heavy, wrestle up against the cage, neutralize this guy, slow him down, knees to the body from the clinch. That's a dirty way to win a fight. Whereas Dober's flip side to winning his fight, way cleaner. So Dober would be the pick if you're going to take any of the two. 8,300, not a bad pick.
All right, let's rip through these pretty quick because we obviously broke down every single fight already. We've got Ricky Simon taking on Ray Borg. Ricky Simon, 8,600. Ray Borg, 7,600. It's Borg or pass. If you think Borg is going to be able to take him down and hold him down, which I'm not convinced by it, take it. Ricky Simon, I just don't think he's going to score very, very, very high here. He's probably going to be utilizing the jab, using that reach advantage that he has. Not a fight that I see scoring very big unless Borg is able to utilize those takedowns. And I'm just not there thinking that he can control a much bigger man like this. Anything to add?
No, I mean, Borg's last three fights, all of his points, 10 takedowns, 6 takedowns, 7 takedowns. All of his points come through takedowns. So if we're saying that that's not going to be a pass against Simon, that takes his points right off the table. Simon on the flip side, not a huge scorer himself, and it's going to be limited successes against Ray Borg, pass.
Vettori versus Roberson, another pass here. Both stand-up guys. Maybe you like Vettori. You really did kind of like Vettori. Do you like him on DraftKings? He hasn't been historically a great DraftKings scorer.
No, historically, it's just he's a good, like I said earlier, he's a general fighter. He does everything well, but nothing exceptionally well. Good wrestler, good ground game, good striking, but not one of the elite strikers in the division, not one of the elite wrestlers in the division, not one of the elite grapplers in the division. So in that regard, yeah, I got to take it with a grain of salt. I don't mind him, Paul. Where I do take big problem here is that when you look at the straight money line, he's minus 175, which I think he's 165. Which I think is very fair. When you look at his DraftKings pricing, he's $8,900. Mm-hmm. So, no, I mean, he averages 60 points throughout his, that's his traditional DraftKings scoring career is 60-point average. And now I got to pay nearly $9,000. He's one of the upper echelon guys. Yes, I do believe he can beat Roberson. Yes, I do believe maybe he could submit Roberson. But more than likely, it's 15 minutes. Vettori be doing more than Roberson, especially with that ground game, mixing it up, marching him down, getting a decision victory, not hitting anywhere close to 90 points, which is what you're going to want. 90, 100 points is what you're going to want. You're spending on a guy like this.
Yep.
No. I like Vettori for the money line. Don't like Vettori on DraftKings.
We got
and Roberson, don't like him on DraftKings either because Vettori's pretty durable, right?
Yep. Linz and Arlovski. Linz is 8,500. Arlovski 7,700. Not going to be rostering much Arlovski here myself. It's the question, and I haven't done enough research on it. I haven't watched enough tape yet to have a great feel about it, but it's knockout. You're looking for the Felipe Linz knockout, if anything, in this from a DraftKings perspective, or at least that's my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, under Arlovski, he's a total banger bust in that if he wins, maybe if he puts on a total clinic, he could score. Yeah, geez, why not score 75, 80, 100 points? But if he loses, he gets knocked out very quick, and he'll score you 2 points and absolutely ruin your lineup whatsoever. So maybe he's being looked at in a punt in that regard. I think that there's tremendous value on Linz potentially. As we talked about earlier, I got to dive back into this one. But Linz is $8,500, and again, if you look at his PFL run, he crushes these guys. He finds a way to them, he knocks them out. He's not a quick starter, I got to knock you in 30 seconds, is that he systematically finds the punch eventually, whether it's rounds 3. He even had a 4th-round TKO in PFL. The power translate, his cardio is not bad. Been off a long time. But at $8,500, if he can go out there and crush Arlovski for you and get you a first-round KO at that price tag, and maybe he's not totally high ownership as well because it's his debut and the layoff and people just don't recognize the name, he could be an optimal lineup kind of guy in victory. 85 is not expensive. It's not super cheap. It's kind of upper mid-range, but he's affordable, that's for sure. And he does have a lot of upside. I will give him that.
Yeah, Arlovski... Honestly, if you go through his entire DraftKings history that's available here on DraftKings.com, it was that Rothwell fight where he really put on, because Rothwell just wasn't moving, right? That was where that was by far the most significant strikes, 152 significant strikes. Otherwise, you look through all of his other previous highest was Struve in 2018. With 84 points, so you would have paid out there. Albini in 2017, he scored 76. You'd be happy with that. Otherwise, we're looking at 38, 22. Now, these are all losses, I guess. So, yeah, you're right. When he wins, he can get up to the 70 range or so. I don't know if that ends up on an optimal. But, yeah, it's nothing to sneeze at for sure. So, yeah, I could see the argument. But, yeah, Linz is the guy I'm paying attention to. As well. Haven't done any tape on Thiago Moises versus Michael Johnson yet, as I said earlier. So I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. I'm not overly excited to play it. That's all I can really say right now. What about you?
Yeah, again, going to have to jump into this one a little bit more. Moises seems to have that upside. Both these guys are going to be mid-range plays, or not mid-range plays, 8,000 to 8,200. if you got a good read on one of the two guys, it's like, oh, geez, why not? I got Johnson. He's got big power. I mean, he's capable of knocking out most men, so it's a good price tag that maybe he scores some points. And if I'm a Moises backer, it's like, oh, geez, I got the submission game on him. I got the wrestling game on him. The one thing that really bugs me is that even though we talk about Moises, black belt and good grappling and good jiu-jitsu and all these, he's never actually submitted anybody. So he has no submission victories in his career. And that's a little bit hard, or sorry, I shouldn't say that. He's got submission victories in his career. He hasn't submitted anybody like I'm gonna say since, prior to the UFC anyways. It's when he's taking on some better guys, the submission's not materializing. So maybe he's able to get the takedown on Michael Johnson. Mm-hmm. But if he doesn't get the submission, then every round starts standing, and I don't know if he's gonna gas. Like, I just got to jump into that one a little bit more. Both guys got some upside considering that they're only 8,000 at 8,200. But I'm going to have to say with Moises, he would be my pick. I can say right now, maybe play him on some lineups if you're playing a bunch of lineups. But without having a full confident answer on it, the only time being I can just say hold.
Fair enough. We got Eubanks and Moras. Eubanks 9,200, Moras 7,000. I mean, I see the art, like the possibility for Eubanks to absolutely dominate and score big, and I haven't toyed around with like roster construction all that much this week. I don't know how like free I am. I do like a lot of underdogs, so maybe I could get her in, but like I don't. It's a tough pill to swallow to pay this price for Eubanks, who. You go through these fights here, and even when she wins, decision, 75 significant strikes, 84 points. Modafferi, 90 points with 57 significant strikes, 3 takedowns, 1 knockdown that she got credited there, 2 advances. So it's like, and she's been 94, 91. It's like she never really pays off this price tag. I think it's a pretty easy one to stay away. And I do not put money anywhere near Sarah Moras, so. This is a stay away. I'm not paying up for Sajara, I don't think. At least in like a single. If you have multi-entry, of course, you're gonna have to cover your tracks a little bit like that. But a single entry type of situation, I like somebody else up there. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think that because it's a style versus style clash. Eubanks is the better grappler. She's the stronger fighter. I think that she's going to have her way and get the decision victory, or maybe some type of make something happen late. But regardless, the style clash leads to not a high scoring fight, right? Mm-hmm. If we're assuming that one takedown gets it done, Moras doesn't just scramble back to her feet, make you work, and then you got to get a second and a third and a fourth takedown. One takedown might be all you need. And because Eubanks has cardio problems in the past, we don't know how great the camp's been. We don't know how great the weight cut's going. She's not going to go look to overexert herself. She might just look to hold down position. Mm-hmm. That just leads to, even if she wins, she's way too high. And with Moras, it's virtually impossible to score points off your back. And they don't, little elbows, little chip away shots, they don't score those on the scoring system. Let's face it. Submission attempts do you no good. You don't get any points from submission attempts. So being on your back is literally just the worst position you could be in. And Moras figures to probably be spending some time in that position in this fight. So I don't like the flip side of the dog. And as well with Eubanks, I just don't think she's going to score up to obviously her large price tag.
We got Morales versus Benitez. I already said I liked Benitez. 7,400. We don't need a crazy performance. Jason Knight, 85 significant strikes, 1 advance. Like, he's not going to get very many takedowns or anything like that. But, like, if he gets a win here, we can definitely get up to 74, 75. When you got to finish against Humberto Bandinai, obviously that was a first-round finish. You got up to 110. That was kind of his... ceiling, first round sub against Cecilia back in the day. I mean, the Clay Collard fight way back in 2015, he got 63 points. So it's not, there's potential for him to like win and still not be great, but I trust the guy. I'll have him in my lineups and hope that we get over like that 75 point threshold. What about you?
Yeah. I think Gabriel Benitez has got great value on him. Again, this goes back to the next 2 fights we'll jump into have kind of the same issue, is that to put things into perspective, like Scenario Eubanks is a 380 favorite. He's $9,200. Morales is a minus 175. The next fight, Hunter Azure is also a 175. And these guys got big price tags, man. $8,800 and $9,100.
Sajara may be overowned, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like people look at odds are
don't
going
know.
to be like, well, this is the safest play on the card. Maybe, but I don't think she has the highest ceiling.
Well, if I told you you're blindfolded and I tell you, Paul, you can have fighter A is minus 175, he's $9,100, and fighter the other one is a 380 favorite, $9,200. Even if you're like, oh man, maybe it's a style thing, it'd be like, oh well, I almost have a 4-1 favorite.
Yep.
At least I'll be getting through. So the pricing's a little bit going to the Morales thing. That's what I see here, is that he's a minus 175 favorite and he's $8,800. So even if you did like him, you'd have to really be banking on that big power. And as much as we're all saying, oh, big power, like what big power? I mean, he did knock out Donghyun Ma, the maestro, and a lot of his knockouts were just over kind of questionable competition.
Yep.
So without some great knockout game, I don't know if he's worth $8,800. Gabriel Benitez, I don't think he knocks out Morales either, but I think, he just outstrikes him to a little bit more, relies on that kick, chop, 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 try to get him down, $7,400, I'm in. If there's a full arena there, and they're in Florida, maybe Omar Morales has got friends and family that come over and support him, and every time he lands, people cheer, and every time the Californian guy lands, people boo. But there's no fucking crowd there, so take that out of it. I think it's a close fight that Benitez does a little bit more, and thus should be rewarded for that. Actually get a clean decision.
Hunter Azure, 9,100. Brian Kelleher, 7,100. I mean, Hunter Azure on his Contender Series fight would have put up a whole bunch of points. Obviously, against Brad Katona in his debut. 59 points, no takedowns. That is a bit concerning. But I think out of all of these people up top, he's the guy I'm going to. What do you think?
Are you? Is that you're gonna make him your guy this week?
I mean, I don't really like anybody up top. I don't really want to play you. Maybe I'll. Fuck. Yeah, it's like honestly, like I'm looking at the top of the board: Eubanks, Azure, Anthony Smith, Marvin Vettori, and Omar Morales. Like, whew. I think Azure is my favorite of the five.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, a lot of people are probably going to end up with lineups that are pretty mid-range, like mid-range values.
Oh yeah.
You're not listening to me right now.
Like him. No, the phone. I don't know. I don't know if you're hearing anything on my end or not. The phone must have cut out because it went silent for like 5 seconds and it just popped back in.
Yeah, I had that happen a couple times. It's okay.
Yeah, well, we're almost through it anyways.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know, just because with Azure, he's got the one fight in UFC with Brad Katona. He didn't really commit to any takedowns, 0 for 1. And he's a guy that has good wrestling, and I'm banking on him to go to that good wrestling. But without a surefire guarantee that he's going to go to the wrestling, then what's to say he doesn't just keep it standing and outstrike Kelleher? Okay, well, let's go to how did he do it against Katona? Well, he had 41 significant strikes, and he ended up on top. Don't get me wrong. He just didn't take him down.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, 59 points. 59 points, not great. But he's only $7,300 then. Now you look at him, you get a big old fat price tag on him, all $9,100.
Yep.
And Kelleher might have durability issues, but has he shown us that he's a killer finisher? Does he got that killer instinct? Is he just going to go over and overwhelm him? I don't know. I'm not saying it's a bad play either. He might be the guy I end up settling with as well. He's not 100% the guy I'm looking at right now. But given that he might be lower ownership compared to some of the other guys, like you said, he's $100 cheaper than Eubanks, and yet there's a big odds discrepancy. So maybe people go with Eubanks, Azure floats under the table. Well, who are the other guys in that price range? Smith? I don't like Smith. Vettori? Well, we just said he was just going to go through the motions. Omar Morales? No.
Okay.
OSP? I don't like OSP. Ricky Simon? That's a hard pass.
Exactly.
Lynn, that's your next guy.
I feel like I'm gonna
end. Lynn's 8,500. He's mid range, so I hear you 100% here.
I feel like I'm gonna end up just leaving a fuck ton of money on the table.
Could be one of those weeks, right? Unique lineup.
Finally, Chase Sherman, Ike Villanueva. Here's the strategy here, Cody. I'm gonna play Chase Sherman, and then if I lose, I just join the televised prelims. There's always a second slate for like the televised prelims.
Yeah.
So when you go busto on the first one, then you're off to the races. I'll end up. I know I'm gonna end up rostering Chase Sherman. It's gonna be scary, but it's happening. I think I'm gonna be very, very mid range this week. It's like Chase Sherman, Felipe Lins. Yeah, I gotta obviously work out the kinks of like roster construction and stuff, but I'm liking a lot more mid-range and some underdogs this week. I may just leave a lot of money on the table. We'll see how it all shakes out.
You know what? I'll give you one thing there. That's actually low key not that bad. Chase Sherman, right? You got to figure Chase Sherman has absolutely nothing to lose. He didn't figure to get back in the UFC this quick. He's coming off a loss. Technically, it's a bare knuckle boxing loss, but to Joey Beltran of all people, the UFC has graced him with a, you know what? We need a fight. You're a fun fighter. You're an action fighter. You always deliver the entertainment. We're going to throw you a bone and throw you on just the first fight of the card, right? This is awesome. Chase Sherman is not going to go out and have a boring fight. He knows why he's here. He knows if he wants to keep this job, even in a victory or a loss, he's got to go for it. When this guy wins, man, he puts it on. Like Damian Grabowski, he landed 111 strikes. Rashad Coulter, he landed 103 strikes. He goes for it. His losses, he lost to Sakai, he landed 79 strikes. The fight against Willis, he landed 69 strikes. Like, he's always going for it. And now they've blessed him with a middleweight opponent that figures to also do the same thing.
Yep.
Ike's not looking to have a boring performance. The UFC's not going to – he could win and they could cut him. He might be on a one-fight deal. This fight could be a one-fight deal. I haven't heard anything about four-fight contracts for either guys. It's a weird fight to throw on the first fight of a weird card in general. This is almost like a contender series matchup.
Yep.
Here, you guys fight first, and whoever wants it more and puts on a fucking show is going to get a contract out of it. And if that's the case, Sherman lands 100 strikes. Even with no takedowns and no knockout, he still gets up to that price. So I think at $8,400, that's not a bad. The problem is that there's a lot of risk. You know, fuck it, we're gambling. Yeah. There's always going to be risk. But it's like, we advise guys on a lineup. That's the way we're supposed to do our show. So we advise you on a lineup, you know, and Chase Sherman going to shit in your pie. I don't know. But as far as my one lineup goes, I don't mind Sherman. You play 100 lineups, you're going to definitely have some Sherman. But yeah, is he a surefire lock of the night? Take it to the Bizang? Cody told me to. Like, no. But like, does he have some upside? Good price tag, good feeling. For sure. So, again, as we talked about, some of these fights I'll have to get revised a few times in the next couple of days just because, you know, time constraints and scheduling. But, yeah, as far as right now goes, I feel confident with that, yeah.
All right, UFC 249, let's do like a 5-minute recap. We're already an hour and 36 minutes into the show. It's been very, very long. UFC great night. Great night all around. Everything worked out pretty well. Obviously, there was the Jacare controversy, or not controversy, he has COVID-19. That sucks. They knew about it. There's a lot of people who are out, but at some point, you know, people are going to have to start taking some risk here. Of course, if you're healthy and you know, you don't have any previous conditions or anything like that, people are going to have to start taking some risks. Like, we can't just shelter in place forever. I thought the UFC did a pretty good job of, you know, in the current climate that we live in. Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson delivered as much as we possibly thought it could have. Holy shit, the amount of punishment that Tony Ferguson took. Unbelievable. What a warrior. I saw a few people like shitting on him afterwards. It's just like, that guy is an absolute legend, warrior. Hopefully at some point in the future they get the Khabib fight to happen again. Like, Tony was up there for so long, 15-fight winning streak. It's like, it's not like he's done because he lost to Justin Gaethje in these types of situations. Like, he's a one big win away from like being right back in the title picture, of course. Anything to say about the main event?
No, I mean, yeah, it was a fine main event, and yeah, we went, I think, 8-2 in picks. I had Tony Ferguson, so it was a good night, all good. But yeah, that was the one disappointment. As much as you can get lots of fights right, you're going to be wrong sometimes. And I was wrong. We all kind of knew that he needed a few rounds to get going, and it was whether he could stay in it after those first two rounds. Anyway, he didn't get knocked out. He was in it. He landed a good shot at the end of the second. But it's like, yeah, that beating he took through the first 10 minutes, he never came back in it. No. That fight was fight of the night, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I disagree strongly with
Nico
that.
Price and Luque got robbed there. Like, they should. Hopefully they got much better fight. Hopefully they got some backroom bonus money, you know? The money they don't tell you about.
Justin Gaethje deserved a performance bonus, right? Mm-hmm. Because he singularly had a great performance. But the fight itself wasn't all that entertaining. It was a show of it was a show of will and chin and durability from Ferguson, but it wasn't competitive. Justin Gaethje fucking kicked his ass, man. It was pillar to post. Yeah, there was a couple good shots here and there from Tony, but Tony never even tried to take him down. There was no grappling exchanges. It was just striking, and believe me, he was losing those exchanges. So whereas when I look at Luque versus Nico Price, it was like, man, that was a good fight. It was close on the scorecards, probably. Both guys had moments. They were swinging bombs. It was nerve-wracking the whole time out. Like, I thought that was a better fight. But, yeah, main event was a fine main event. Cejudo, I don't know.
Did he retire? Did he actually retire? That's the real question here. I kind of listening to him in, like, interviews and stuff, he sounds like a guy who just doesn't want to fight anymore, and I totally respect that. He's 33 years old. We always talk about flyweights, just like when's the end of the line at flyweight? Well, or I guess he's at bantamweight now, but you know these lower weight classes, like 36, 37. It's like it's hard to stay at that speed as you get older. He doesn't sound like a guy who really wants to fight whatsoever anymore. I'm totally on board if he wants to retire. Obviously, we'd love to see him continue to fight. What a knee. What a knee. Obviously, Dominic Cruz, real salty as shit, calling out Keith Peterson. Like, yeah, don't get hit with that knee up the pipe. Especially after they had just watched and got, like, Herb Dean be a couple seconds late. And, like, we saw Jairzinho Rosenstrike's lifeless body up against the cage, pinned up against the cage. You kind of, the next fight, you have a similar situation. I think it may have been a tad early from Keith Peterson, but like that knee was something ferocious. Like Cruz is a dick for saying he smelled like booze or saying they smelled like alcohol and cigarettes. It's just like, I bet you it was cigarettes. Yeah, I mean, our boy Pogi Rob said, he's like, cigarettes, of course. Like Keith Peterson has a neck tattoo. I expect the cigs. But the alcohol, it's just like everyone. I mean, my hands probably smell like alcohol because everyone's using hand sanitizer and shit. That shit's like 99% alcohol. So like, shut up, Cruz. Take your L.
You know what? There's a saying in the Bible: "Let he who lives without sin cast the first stone." And all I have to say to all of the people on Twitter that might be following Cruz's little escapade here is, who amongst us has not smelled like cigarettes and alcohol a few times in their lives?
Exactly.
So, fuck yourself, Dominic Cruz. It's a free country, and this is Florida. All jokes aside, I can't get into like promotions or like all that. And this is an amateur card, and it was in the States, not in Canada. But like, yeah, I've had beers and like partied with reps between fights. So like, I don't think it happened here. I think he's being a sore loser. Even just the way the Megan O'Leary's interviewing him, you can see he's answering what she's saying, but he's thinking about something. Like, should I fucking say it? Should I fucking say it? I don't know if I should say it. Don't say it, but he did, right? And as soon as he says it, she's like, did he? And he's like, yeah, absolutely.
She's like, oh, wow, because she didn't want to like be like, well, that didn't happen, but those are really bold statements. You're trying to get somebody fired. Like, you better have receipts if you throw something out like that. You're trying to get a dude fired. Like, that's what happened.
Yeah, man.
You're publicly trying to get somebody fired. You better have receipts. You have to know that the guy smelled like booze and cigarette. Like, the cigarettes, fuck the cigarettes. Cigarettes are legal, whatever. Drinking on the job as a referee, trying to protect the safety of fighters during a coronavirus quarantine times. That's a different scenario altogether. So you got to have receipts. You got to know before you cast shots like that. And I lost a little bit of respect for Dominic Cruz.
Well, you know what? That's exactly it. It's like, it's a bold allegation to make just in general, but also like it's a triple allegation, right? There's actually 3 allegations in that statement. People see cigarettes and alcohol, right? But then he says these refs should be drug tested. Well, did you think cigarettes or alcohol would pop up on a fucking drug test, you dumbass? No. So what he's actually saying is probably got cocaine and weed in his system too. He just doesn't outright come out and say that because, again, it's just like a baseless allegation. But him insinuating or saying, well, these refs should be drug tested as well. It's like, why? So in a week or two, he get a test back. Those, oh shit, he was on drugs. I don't know. It's actually triple allegation. But I'm gonna throw one last thing out here that actually really disturbed me, probably the most out of all of them. You know what I mean? I'm a fine detail guy. I didn't actually take as much offense as that as this next thing. You watch fights. You are a connoisseur of the sport, Paul. You watch all these fights. You are analyst in that. We have to watch this stuff. We have to give away opinions, but you're in the know. You know the people in the community. You know what's going on in the sport, right? I feel I'm the same way. I feel 98, 97% of the people that listen to the show, if you're this far in the show, 100% of the people in the show are fans. They know. Okay. We all know. Dominic Cruz knows. He's one of us. He's an analyst. He sees things. He's involved in the sport. He knows what teams are at. He knows this fighter style. That's why people applaud him on his commentary. Fuck, this guy, he knows. Okay. Right. Everybody knows who Keith Peterson is. You watch fights, you watch Keith Peterson. But we know who all the refs are. You know why? We watch fights, we watch these guys. Keith Peterson's not new. It's the way he says, oh, I saw the page. Who is this guy? Can I get a different referee? As if you don't fucking know. How many fights have you commentated where you've sat there and it's Keith Peterson and you're telling me you don't know this guy? Never heard of his name? Oh, I don't want this referee. It's like bullshit, man. Either you're not paying attention or you're a little bitch. And you know what, dude? If I had not me, but I can get the mindset, dude, world title fight. This guy just stole this opportunity from me. I was coming out of retirement to put on this one big shebang. He's obviously salty. He's obviously sour, but yeah, he's one of those people that like wouldn't shake your hand and be like, oh man, you beat me. You're the better man. He's one of those guys that would like go and try to get you fired from your job. Like he's not a good person, man. He's a dick. He's a piece of shit, really.
Yeah. I'm kind of hopefully I don't know, he won't apologize either. That's the problem with him. That's why he's kind of a dick,
because he's a dick. That's why he won't
other people I think
like...
let me check his Twitter. Before we cast stones at him, we said you started that whole little tirade with something about casting stones. Let me just make sure. Let's just look Dominic Cruz on Twitter here. Let's make sure that that he hasn't been like, hey, I was just emotional, because I would respect that if he did. Let me just look
Peterson
here.
was lighting him up like a Christmas tree. I don't know if that's a real Peterson account. It didn't have a whole lot of followers. Christmas tree, dog. He lit him up so good.
Yeah, Dominic Cruz hasn't done shit. Fuck him. All right, and the last thing I was going to say about Dominic Cruz, and I had mentioned this before, it's like I have not always made the best decisions in life. Dominic Cruz is so like, I may know things or two about like what people look like when they've made bad decisions. Dominic Cruz doesn't strike me as a guy who knows whether or not you're on drugs at the time. That's all I'll say about that. That's my final thought on that. And all these guys, mostly like Jairzinho, Rosenstrike bettors, who are just like, oh my God, Francis's technique is so bad. Oh my God, Jairzinho's would have caught him with that left hook. Here's the thing, guys. Francis Ngannou, no, that technique is not as clean as when he used to kind of take his time and play with it. I think Francis has came to the realization, he's just like, my chin's pretty fucking good. My power is amazing. I'm just going to go and try to kill all these guys. And it's working. So I know it's not the cleanest, crispest technique, but like you live in your mom's basement. Stop criticizing a guy like Francis Ngannou who would murder you. Murder you.
You know what, though, man? We're in the business of throwing out criticism.
I know.
Like, these guys would all murder us. Fucking Michelle Larson and Carlos Esparza would fucking murder us. As much as I probably would be like, I got punch his chance. Like, I don't fucking know, man. What am I going to tire it after 2 minutes and get my ass kicked? Like, by the way, I've done jiu-jitsu many of times. I've been submitted by women. Not a great feeling, but you know what? Not a bad feeling, because you realize she got better technique. There's nothing I can do. It is what it is. What I'm saying is it's hard to criticize someone's technique, but at the same time, like that's what we're here to do. Jorgen De Castro, right? This goes to what you're saying basically about like, oh, good technique, bad technique. It's all just like recency bias.
He beats
Elton Meeks.
Yeah.
Right, he beats Elton Meeks, and I'll tell you something, right? He's a fat, out of shape 205er that lands a big old bomb. But fuck, man, everyone likes this guy. Then he fights Justin Toffos. 3 fights into his pro experience, runs straight into it. No one's saying, geez, this guy's a small little out of shape 205er who's not going to be able to close the distance on a real heavyweight. Then he fights Hardy. Everyone's backing him, right? So what happens now when he fights a guy that's 6 inches taller than him? He swings everything more or less from the outside. He didn't really come in with the ball. And now everyone's saying, geez, this guy's a short, fat little 205er that should go back down. Like, what happened to him being a 6th striker? Whatever happened to him being everyone's favorite underdog darling? It's like, Nah, man, you fight good, you're a great striker, everyone loves you, you're the man. You fight bad, you're a bad striker, everyone thinks you're a bum, you're no good. Like, that's the problem with the internet. There's a lot of great people. There's also a lot of people that, are just looking to throw some shade or looking to be an asshole. And I'm not saying Francis Ngannou was sloppy is being an asshole. Dude, facts are facts. Guy was really sloppy with those punches. The facts are also facts in that this motherfucker, hands down, he just won the battle off of who's got the more pow. And there's no human being on the planet that takes a clean shot from this guy. I'm going to go as far as to say there's no animal on the planet that takes a shot from this guy. You thinking this motherfucker hits a rhino or a bear in the head that they're going to take it? Nah, dog. They're folding over. Francis Ngannou doesn't have to have great technique. I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because look at Justin Gaethje, masterful clinic performance.
Mm-hmm.
If he was in a straight boxing match against a boxer, he would have got fucking annihilated.
Yeah.
All of his punches were loopy. They were over the top. They were from the hip. They were wild. You can't gauge timing on that. If you're fighting a technical boxer, he's got a boxing coach, you look, the jab. He sets up the jab, the right hand. Oh, look at this tape. Paul, look at this tape. He jabs twice. He sets up on the left, throws the right hand over top. Then you can start to tape study. Then you can start to formulate a game plan. Then you can start to train for it. How would you train for what you saw on Saturday night? Duck under and get a takedown. That was the only thing you could have taken out of that. Otherwise, it's like you can't back up. One of them's going to hit you. You can't shell up. One of them's going to hit you. You can't move forward. One of them's going to hit you. Like, I get why people are saying at least Cormier and Stipe got a chance. They can both wrestle. Like, nah, dude, not anymore. Cormier's too small, too old, and Ngannou learned his lesson, man. He took his licking. That's what needed to happen for him to advance. The Lewis fight was a mental relapse. He's overcome that. Fuck, the guy's got the goods. Anybody who gets matched up with him is in for one hell of a time.
Yeah. One
hell of a time.
Like, good.
And if he took, for whatever reason, he took a glory kickboxing match tomorrow against, Rico Verhoeven, or I'm not going to say about Haria, though he could be shot to bits, but, Jamal Ben Sadiq or Hezdy Gurges or any of the guys that are kicking around at the top of the heavyweight division. I'm like, dude, he's got a chance against any of those guys. Too.
Sure. Bob sat back in the day, like...
Peter Nesto lose.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy. It's just like you get to a certain level, like with heavyweights, it's like you get to a certain level of power, and it's just like it doesn't fucking. That's why I've been saying for years, and I don't think we're gonna see it. But like Francis Ngannou, you give me a plus 100, and I will bet it against like Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ moves up to 265 pounds to take on Francis, and he's got like all of his miracles and shit. I'm still taking Frankie Murder at plus 100 because that power there's no coming back from it. He hits you really, really clean, and you're fucked. Like the human brain can only take so much.
Yeah, he's just got like life-changing power, man. Yep. He's a scary, scary, scary individual. And I think,
the only thing I'll finally touch on is, so Jorgen De Castro, I had a little underdog play on that. That did not work out. The leg kicks were really working for him early on. I think he hurt his foot a little bit, but also on top of that, Greg Hardy adapted well. He's eating those leg kicks early on, but you really started to see that reach that you were talking about as we were leading into the fight, the reach and his ability to stay at length really kind of factor in, and he was able to change his game plan and find that range where he was going to be victorious. It's, Jorgen De Castro is no special guy, but we're continuing to see Greg Hardy develop more into who he is. He's not really a power guy. It's more of a distance fighter. He is ready for guys at like top 15. He called out whoever number 15 is in the heavyweight division. I think that sounds about right. I think he's ready to try. It's heavyweight. You can make moves really fast in this division. That's all I really have to say about that. Any final thoughts on the card? Anything else you wanted to add?
Well, yeah, if we talk about the Verdum-Oleinik thing, we'd be here all day. So let's just
sorry, we told every. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Talk about that not ever again.
My bad. We told we were so, like that one stung, man. I lost it would have been a good night. I came out slightly ahead, but like it's Verdum crippled a whole whack of shit. I had tunnel vision there. What am I gonna say? I really didn't. I love Oleinik. I own a T-shirt and shit, and it's like I can't believe I bet against my boy at like minus 333. Like Jesus, yeah. Verdum looked pretty bad. He got into all the good spots and stuff too. It just, just didn't work out. took a licking on that one.
Multiple things to consider there is that one, he had spots to win the fight. It wasn't like he got straight shit kicked first round. It was like he did have spots. It was a split decision. It was a close split decision. It's no good. But I just want to say that fight's a very prime example of where you touch back on what happens throughout the week, because we do the show before fight day, obviously. Mm-hmm. But we did the show, and Fabricio Verdun eats this guy all day. Then guy weighs in, and he looks awful. That's the first red flag. God, he looks bad. Yes, Olenek looked really good. But more so than that, just Fabricio Verdun looked bad. Then the picture surfaces of him and Jacare. The Jacare tests positive. And then the thought is that this guy's probably sick to a certain extent. Cardio might not be great. He'd been off for 2 years. Then we have people messaging us, and everyone was talking about it. And I lost money on it for sure. But I at least had the sense at that point to be like, okay, I'm going to buy out of some of these bets. I'm going to put Olenek on a few bets, and I'm just not going to go all in on Verdun the way I had initially planned. You just got to kind of pay attention to how things go in the week. But again, I mean, it's a crazy sport, and we gave 10 favorites. We went into, we just took all the favorites, right? The 2 underdogs, Gaethje, everybody considered him a live underdog. Everybody had him as a live underdog. We had Ferguson to win. I had Ferguson anyways. But Gaethje obviously was that live underdog. Olenek was not a live underdog. And he's one of the very, very, very few. He's one of 2 dogs on the entire card. The one that nobody sucks for the most part. Some people, sure. For the most part, he was supposed to be the safe pick. It's that shit changes during the week. You got to keep up with it. But that's pretty much all I got to say. The only thing I want to say with the Greg Hardy thing is I doubled down a little bit on that Hardy by decision because this is where you got to pay attention to things. Greg Hardy comes out and he says, I want to be the next John Jones. And everybody starts jumping down his throat. This fucking idiot is not John Jones. This fucking idiot is not going to be a great fighter like blah, 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 blah. You know, all I heard when he said that, which was the day before the fight, all I heard when he said that was risk management, risk management, risk management. He's not saying, I'm going to be John Jones. I'm the greatest. I'm the GOAT.
I'm going to be a smart fighter.
Exactly.
Not a smart person, but I'll be a smart fighter.
With these people. Right, I made some decisions. Some people say I'm a piece of shit, but I'm not going to go in there and swing wild bombs. Yeah, there's a spot for that in the sport. And people love watching those great exchanges, but staying on the outside and just using better skill, better technique, like the NFL. I don't got to run through this guy 100. I got to out technique him. I got to move him. We got a game plan. Look, my coaches, you know how much tape study you do in college ball, let alone you're an NFL player? You know how many, like, they give you a team book and you got to memorize all these patterns in this plays? Like, he's not a fucking dumb person. He's at a great camp with great coaches, and he's a great athlete. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be the most entertaining heavyweight, but he's going to be an effective heavyweight. And I don't know if we're going to get a great bunch of underdog money on him by decision going forward, because it seems like the blueprint's starting to come out, but that was the play 100%.
All right, and then before we get out of here, I see our boy Sims Tout Rob, also known as Pogi Rob. He's got Pogi Rob on his profile again. I hashed it out with him. We've talked about it a little bit. I'm like, lean into it. You know, I like what he's done with his account. You should check him out. He's been absolutely crushing these Sims right now. I'm in on the game. It's good money to be had. So reach out to our boy at Rob Viromich, WIEROMIEJ. He's been killing the Sims game, guys. He's crushing. Like, he's winning thousands of dollars. Let's keep that in maybe the hush hush of where he's playing, but so that nobody tracks us down and bans our accounts. But he's been killing it. He's been killing it. Look for him. That's why I'm burying this deep in the episode, so that, like, the real fans will find this. But hit him with the PRP there, Cody, before we get out of here.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody who has like 6 Xboxes just running simulations, why would you not take their advice on something? Like, if someone told me, dude, I got 6 computers and I run all these tests and all these, I would definitely listen to what he has to say. Whether or not he would tell me, obviously, if he's going to beat Ben Rothwell, I'm picking Ben Rothwell. But I'd be like, shit, man, this guy's obviously taking the time and effort. So yeah, I give full credit to Pogi Rob, definitely unfollow. But yeah, I got to go with the PRP. We were 2 fights off from it in the last week. Mm-hmm. But we will get that son of a bitch eventually. We are going to go with Glover Teixeira, Ben Rothwell, pair of dogs at the top. Then we're going to go with Drew Dober. We're going to go with Honestly, I'd love to say pass, but we got to give all the picks here. So I will take Ricky Simon. I'm going to take Ricky Simon. I'm going to take Marvin Vettori. I'll take Felipe Lins, Thiago Moises, Sinhara Eubanks, Gabriel Benitez is another dog, Hunter Azure, and Chase Sherman. Obviously, I am uncertain on about 3 of those fights. I don't feel real good about. And yeah, you know what I mean? Never quit. Keep at it. So that is it for now. And this PRP would pay way better than the last one because we got dogs now, buddy.
This card in general, man, there's dogs. There's like I remember there was somebody like I guess I don't read very much of the comment section, but there's somebody in the comment section last week who was like, "Oh, they called themselves dog or pass, but it's like all favorites." Just like guys, we come in here and like we're not just like actively like, "Oh, I need some dogs on." It's just like you go through every single fight as a single standalone type of thing. There's some dogs on this. Like you can win Boku to bucks if things break right. I'm either gonna win a lot of money this weekend, or I'm gonna lose like pretty much all of it. That's the way this card kind of shakes out, but I love it. This is what we live for. This is last week's card. Those odds were out for so long, and like everything was juiced up to minus 300. It's like it's hard to really crush. This is one that you can make a lot of money on this card, so I'm super excited. Thank you to Cody Saftic. Like we're at almost 2 hours of content for a Wednesday UFC card. What a world that we're living in. Thank you to Cody Saftic breaking down the fights with me as always. For Cody, I am Paul saying goodbye and good luck.